Welcome to Sunday League Podcast. You know we can talk trash. If you ain't with it, you can fall back. Welcome to Sunday League Podcast, the podcast. Welcome to Sunday League Podcast, the podcast. Welcome to Sunday League Podcast. You know we can talk trash. If you ain't with it, fall back. Welcome to Sunday League Podcast, the podcast. Welcome to Sunday League Podcast, the podcast.
What's cracking, you fucking bush leaguers, and welcome back to Sunday League, the podcast. This is episode 134. And on this episode, we have a very special guest, owner of JRG Training, Junior Guillen. Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me on. It's an honor. Appreciate it.
Welcome, brother. I think we've had this one kind of a long time coming as well.
I think so, yeah. It's just kind of it was funny how the timing worked out, but yeah, no, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Welcome. Appreciate you, lending us your time, and, everybody's going to lend us their ears.
Sweet.
Yeah, man. So, let's go around the horn real quick with some Fielder's Choice. Like, what are we drinking?
Well, I already forgot the name, but it's Bomb Bourbon.
Bomb Bourbon. It's a Cooperstown Distillery A Double Day Bourbon.
And it's baseball shaped.
And so. Yeah, it's in a baseball, what is it, the bottle?
Yeah.
It's not a decanter, right?
No, it's a bottle. Yeah.
It's a bottle. It's like the stock bottle. It's pretty dope, man. It was a gift. It was a gift from DH a long time ago for my birthday.
Yeah, and what we noticed right away was that it was sweeter.
Yeah, we've already tasted it. It's sweet. It has hints of smokiness. I don't know. I'm being stupid.
That's honestly just how I am with bourbon. I was just like, you know what? It's smoky, and it reminds me of like barbecue because barbecue's smoky, so it's kind of like whatever. This will be my drink.
Yeah, definitely. So it's good stuff, man. And I'm not a huge bourbon drinker myself, but you are, right?
Well, I mean, when I do, it's not often that I drink. It's like once in a blue moon, honestly. But yeah, it's my go-to. It's probably bourbon.
Bourbon. Do you have a specific bourbon that you like?
Honestly,
like a preference?
If someone just hands me bourbon, I'm probably gonna drink it.
Oh, okay. Is that the only thing you'll drink, or you'll drink anything else?
No, I'll drink other stuff. Yeah. So like, I don't mind vodka, but it's like, I try and stay away from alcohol. It's just like I said,
Gotcha.
I'm strict with the bourbon because that's what I like. But beer every now and then, like Blue Moon and Modelo. So
okay,
nothing too fancy, really.
I'm gonna show you something later, Modelo related, but don't let me forget.
Try not to.
Yeah. So yeah, man. You mentioned that you don't really go into alcohol and all that, which I understand why. But we're gonna get into all that. We're gonna play a lot of get to know you.
Yeah.
First off, we're talking about your baseball career and all that stuff, and what you're doing not with your life, but what you're doing in life right now with something that you're trying to build.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Like I said, I'm trying to just be as honest and raw as I can.
Yeah. So you're right now you're knee deep, venturing deep into the business world. Seems like you like golf. You're a family guy.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, definitely. You've taken beatings from the butcher. Do you know who the butcher is?
No.
It's your best bud, man. It's your brother.
Oh, yeah. See, that's the first time I've ever known that someone's called him the butcher.
He's the butcher. On this show, he's the butcher because he just carves everybody up.
See, I'm just used to calling him Dickface. So
Dickface. Oh, man. So, apparently, like, his grandpa and you like to clown on him a lot and like, just kind of pick at him.
Oh, yeah. It's only getting worse as we all get older. So it's kind of like, when it's the three of us in a room or at an event or wherever, it's just automatic. We'll just gang up on Che.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of one of those things where that's how we've built a relationship because, his family has been so welcoming to me. And I was 10 and he was 12 when we first played together at Upland National Little League. And ever since then, we really haven't been out of each other's lives for too long. I know when he went to Georgetown, I didn't see him for, I think, a little over a year and a half. But things work back around timing wise. And, like I said, he's the older brother that I never had. And it's just kind of like, that's just how I refer to him now, is everybody's like, yo, this is my brother Shay. And, but yeah, we'll get more into it. But
yeah, he's about like 4 years older than you, roughly.
I think like 2 or 3. Yeah.
2 or 3.
Yeah.
So, you guys have gotten kicked out of tournaments from what I've been told.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah.
You guys, like to go fishing, getting drunk with grandpas, at a legal age, right?
Right.
Legal drinking age.
Right, of course.
And you were the best man in his wedding.
Yeah. And I actually had a really good best man speech. And it was funny because it was kind of like, it's one of those things where you put off for a long time because you're like, I'll get around to it, whatever.
Yeah.
His wedding's in like a year, and then all of a sudden it's, I think it's like the first week of September, and I'm like, shit, he's getting married in a month. And I was like, all right, I really got to step up with this speech. And, you know, honestly, like, we're coming up with it last minute. Like, there was a lot of laughs. There was a lot of wholesome moments. And everything was real and authentic because, you know, when you see both of us and how we kind of go about our lives, it's kind of like we automatically have different temperaments and how we carry ourselves. But he's, like I said, he's always been there for me and my family and vice versa. Like, you know, it's just like I said, like having an older brother, like, yeah, there's been times we've argued. There's been times where, you know, it's been a little bit of tension in between, but at the end of the day, like, you know, we're each other's brothers till the day we die. So I'll always appreciate him and his family for what they've done for me and my family.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely. Did you give like a funny speech at the?
Oh yeah. There was some pretty good. I think I saved like a printout somewhere, like in my room.
So you don't remember it off the top of your head?
So not off the top of my head, but I do remember one segment where I got him was, so when the first year we had played together, it was his last year, and like he had his quote unquote like girlfriend, which means like you date for like a week. So at the time, like, you know, she had come to the game and I was like, oh, okay, like this is going to give him the energy to like, you know, play really well.
Right.
And as fate would have it, he struck out 3 times.
Oh, of course.
And I kid you not, like, I think he traded out the girl automatically because I never saw her again. And I've never seen him strike out 3 times ever again. Like it might have happened, obviously, like maybe at Georgetown or whatever, where he was playing somewhere else. But that was the only time in my life where I've seen him strike out 3 times because he just puts the ball in play all the time.
Yeah.
But that's where I had gotten a laugh or two, and I just can't remember everything off the top of my head. But it was good and it was wholesome, and it was actually a really lovely wedding. So.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds like the girl though was not a slump buster.
No,
not at all.
Nope.
So for you, you know, but by the way, shout out to Shay and his wife Janine. They're great people. They're great supporters of the show. You know, and they're always, every time we go to the games, they always come over and say what's up. And so you know, shout out to them. Really appreciate them.
Yeah, they'll host some bomb dinners too. Like they know I'm a foodie, even though like I've taken health and like fitness a little more seriously. Like he hits me up and he's like, "Yo, I got the smoker going." And I'm like, "I'm there." Nice.
Do you? We'll get into fitness a little bit, but do you have like a go-to meal? Something that you just like, oh, I have to have that. It could. I mean, I'll ask you both: a clean meal and like your cheat.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say because it's kind of like I have a go-to home cooked, and then I have a go-to like restaurant or like a fast food place or whatever. But God, for home cooked, I would have to say like.
Now be careful because a lot of people are gonna judge you based on what you want to eat.
I mean,
you know what I'm saying?
They could judge all they want. It's like when you come from like an Italian and like Mexican family, it's just basically just you're gonna load up on stuff, right? So, God, I would really honestly say like chicken Alfredo, that pasta, and then I really love anything chicken or anything like steak, and then I really enjoyed like the way that my mom had made meatloaf. Like, you know, I know everybody kind of like hates on it.
Meatloaf is fucking bomb. Dude.
Yeah, that's why I was always kind of like, it was one of those weird things where it was like, yo, why are you hating on it so bad? It's just like a big slab of meat, and like that's what
it's just ground beef like mixed up with some whatever
nice flavor, seasoning, whatever. So I was like, all right, cool, yeah. My mom makes a really good one, but so that's that, and then for restaurants, it's kind of like I've traveled around a bit because of baseball, because of like, you know, vacations and everything. So the one go-to restaurant that I would say I love is Roscoe's Deli in Chino Hills.
Okay.
And it's because they have huge portions and it's really not that expensive for what you get. You'd think you'd pay more given the size of the beer, like the jugs and everything, right. And then the portions. And then there's a couple others in Arizona. And I think there were a couple good restaurants out in Virginia, but yeah, if it's a go-to restaurant here, it'd have to be Roscoe's Deli because they're always bomb. It's always really good.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have to check that. I wrote it down right here in my.
Oh yeah, dude, you'll love it.
On my paper, on my scratch notes here. Where are you originally from?
So I was born in Pomona Valley Hospital. Okay. But born and raised in Ontario up until like 11 or 12 years old. That's when we had moved to Upland, but I was living in Ontario and was still going to Upland schools.
Gotcha.
Excuse me. Yeah. So gone to Pioneer Junior High and then had graduated from Upland 2015. Yeah.
Okay. I could have sworn I seen like you were in Colorado recently though, right? Or?
No, that was actually a trip that Shay invited me to. So I was like super psyched because that'd be my first time in Colorado. And I had just finished a Vegas, kind of like a business trip out in Vegas. And so I was like, okay, cool. Like Vegas and Colorado in a span of like 2 months. Like that's pretty dope.
Yeah.
But then last minute, he's like, yo, like something happened with the travel and I wouldn't have been able to go. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just put it off for next year or some other time. But we are trying to, so we're trying to go to Florida and Houston, Texas this year.
Is a baseball trip like
Vacations.
vacations?
Yeah,
Okay.
vacations. So we were trying to go for, my older sister is a Tampa Bay Rays fan.
Wow.
So, yeah. So,
How?
okay. So like most girls, how they would say like, oh, who's your favorite team? It's basically the hot dudes from like, so she loves, Kevin Kiermaier, Shane McClanahan.
Kiermaier's no longer with the Rays.
Well, he's no longer there. That's
Yeah.
why she came into my room like super upset one day, and I
Oh,
was
I see.
like,
I
you
get
know
it,
what?
yeah.
Like, same, I get you. But yeah, that's why. So she was like, she loved the guys out there, and she likes Florida.
Okay.
She had wanted to go, but we had to push it back because it would have been way too crazy given the time. We wanted to go right at the beginning of the season when everyone's going there for spring break.
Right.
So we were like, you know what? Let's put it off. Let's maybe do something more local if she wants to go to Vegas or Laughlin or whatever.
Yeah.
But for a friend's birthday, we might actually go to Houston in August. So I'm excited because I'd never
Nice.
been to Texas, but I have
Yeah.
family in Midland, but I've never actually gone.
Gotcha. Are you gonna visit the stadium?
Probably.
Is it Minute Maid? With Astros?
Yeah, I
Wherever
think
the
it's
Astros
Minute
are.
Maid.
Yeah, Minute Maid.
Yeah, probably. But I mean, I'm there for like the barbecue and drinks. It's
Right.
Texas. So,
Everything's bigger.
right? So
Yeah.
I mean, like, and honestly, like barbecue pit. If we just have nothing but barbecue for 3-4 days straight, I'm
Right.
not going to be the guy to trip.
Of course.
So I'm like,
Yeah.
we're chilling either
You'll
way.
burn that shit off when you come back.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's vacation for a reason.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Trolling your Instagram, just trying to just see what's up with you. You're into fitness. You like music. What's your go-to exercise? Just one movement. If you could do one exercise for the rest of your life, which one would it be?
Tricep dips.
Tricep
Yeah.
dips.
Well, anything
like
for
a dip, like a dip station.
Like yeah, anything triceps.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that.
For sure.
Yeah. Go-to music. Like, what are you listening to?
So mostly what I play is like reggae and country, but pretty much like if you go,
you're always vibing then.
always vibing, especially when I'm driving around because I do a lot of driving. I'll leave the area to coach certain kids, and yeah, I don't mind longer drives because I got the playlist for it. But you know, if it sounds good, whether I hear it on the radio or refer an artist to a friend, it's on my phone because dude, I'll go from reggae, country, hip hop, old school rock, and then a little bit of jazz.
Nice.
So
It's a good mix.
yeah.
It's a good mix. I like it. There's two other things that are on your Instagram that I'm like, huh.
Okay.
I'm not sure which one to go with. So I'll go with, we were talking earlier, but you had mentioned Bass Pro Shop. Like, what's the deal with Bass Pro Shops?
Shit.
You drop just a fuckload of money there all the time.
No, because I don't necessarily have like it's not that I go there and spend like $100, $150. It's kind of one of those things where they always get me with like clothing or hats. So
Okay.
I'll go and I'll spend like maybe $20, $30 on one thing.
Gotcha.
But it's kind of like, it's getting to the point where it's like one thing almost every week. So it's kind of like, I mean, it's not terrible to be
Right.
honest. I could blow like $200-$300 on
Yeah.
it, but like I told you, when we moved into the area, it was kind of like I didn't realize how close it was.
Yeah.
When we were down in Montclair and Chino, I was like, I'm not in the area, so why am I going to go up to Bass Pro and
Right.
shop around, right? But since we're literally 5 minutes away from the store,
Yeah.
like I told you, if it's a slower coaching day, I'm like,
Yeah.
Shit.
Is it walking distance? Like, if you need to get your steps in?
oh yeah, so if I walk to Bass Pro, it's probably like 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, okay. That's
if
not
that,
bad.
no,
That's not bad at all. I mean,
Nope.
especially if you're like, even if you wanted to jog there, you get there in like 10 minutes, right?
if that, yeah.
If that. Because I'm thinking about it, like, well, if I went to Bass Pro Shop often, like, what the fuck would I buy there? you
Yeah.
know? I know
Yeah.
they got guns and shit and like
Yeah.
hunting
I
equipment.
mean,
and
eventually, like,
boating stuff, right?
yeah,
All that
and-
kind of stuff.
yeah, and eventually, like, that's where I'd want to get to is like, okay, if I save enough money or if I start making enough from the business, like, I want to go and scope around like the more expensive stuff. But for right now, I'm pretty much on the bottom floor, going between like some long sleeves, shirts, sweaters, and then going obviously to where the side where the restaurant is at. It's like where they have the nice shirts, but like I said, for $20-$25.
Right.
And another thing that I forgot they had was like home decor. So
Home decor?
Yeah. So
Okay.
do you know, I sent you a picture of how we had the
Yeah.
the interview place set up.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's a teaser.
yeah, right.
It's a teaser.
So those 3 frames I had bought from Bass Pro. So technically there's 4. You're just not seeing the 4th one. It's tucked away in a corner. but I had bought 3 out of those 4 in a span of, I would say, like 2-3 weeks.
Right.
Because I just, anything kind of like the Bass Pro culture, or like, the Northwest where you're camping, hunting, fishing, all that stuff. Like, I wish I did it more, and I'll probably get around to doing it more. But I just kind of always liked that lifestyle or that culture. So,
yeah. Well, what's the one thing that every man should go to Bass Pro Shop and buy? The one thing. This is not in my notes.
Okay. If you have the money for?
Yeah.
Okay.
If money's not an issue, I
probably
guess.
those side-by-sides or those Can-Ams.
What the hell is that?
It's like the off-road, those off-road vehicles, like when you take to Glamis.
Oh, okay, yeah.
With the gnarly suspension.
Dune buggy and all that shit, but it's all like souped out and shit.
Yeah, like, because I'd love to drive one of those.
Yeah,
so.
Okay. My neighbor across the street has one, sick one, dude. It bumps, dude. It's pretty dope.
They're pretty dope.
Yeah, they're pretty sick. I'm like, huh. Maybe one day. Maybe.
Yeah. And I would say either that, or like if you really want to get into it, like if you're into shooting, whether it's archery or with guns, like I would say that's a pretty cool skill to learn.
Mm-hmm.
I think so. I was trying to do it last year, but other priorities came up. But this year I want to actually try and save up to buy a compound bow and actually learn how to shoot that way. And then a gun too. But it's kind of like, from learning a few skills that I've learned this past year or two, like I just want to keep the ball rolling with that. I want to learn some stuff that I've always wanted to and take the time and actually do it.
No, yeah, definitely understand, man. And what I don't understand though is from your Instagram, breakfast burritos. What the hell is up with, like, what's your thing with why breakfast burritos? Why is that in your bio?
Oh, like when you see my bio and everything?
Yeah.
I think it's just because it's like that's the one food that hits directly to the soul.
Okay.
So it's kind of like, I know I didn't mention it when we were talking about, what's a clean meal or like a restaurant, whatever. But it's kind of one of those things where as soon as you mention breakfast burrito, my ears and my focus, like they heighten. Like my ears perk up. I start getting more focused and I'm like, okay, where are you guys going?
Right.
It's kind of one of those things. Like when I was with my cousin out in LA, this was back when we were like 15, 16 years old. We were staying at our uncle's place. And we had gone to a really bomb breakfast burrito spot down the street. And I think it was the LA area. And so I had finished mine. This burrito was massive, dude. Like they put in the works, like the ham, the sausage, bacon, everything. Yeah. So they loaded it up, so it felt heavy. And I finished mine, and 2 hours later, I'm like, yo, like, are you gonna finish the other half of your burrito?
Yeah.
And he looks at me, and he's like, my cousin's like that. He's like, bro, if you're hungry, like, just finish it off. And I was like, cool. So I ran downstairs, bro, and I finished his half.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of like breakfast burrito is the one thing that I'll just smack regardless of, okay, I had a great week in the gym, but it's kind of like I'm going to splurge myself and have a couple breakfast burritos, like big ones too.
Damn.
So,
yeah. There's one at Farmer Boys, Hog Heaven. I don't know if you tried that one.
I think I've had that one. I think I stopped going to Farmer Boys because, like, for me, it was kind of like Carl's Jr., where the price just got, like, ramped up.
Yeah, unfortunately. They have a rewards points program, though. Like, you can get every so often, you get yourself a free one.
Yeah. You know what I should start doing with the rewards is Jack in the Box, because I'm there always for, like, their iced coffee.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They have good coffee?
It's actually not bad. And I'd rather give Jack in the Box my money for a $4 coffee than Starbucks that's like $6, $7.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things. And it's literally right up the street, right next to Logan's Steakhouse, that place I told you about.
Okay, I know which one.
Yeah.
So that's your go-to coffee, since we're talking about coffee?
Yeah.
Everybody loves caffeine. A lot of people, I'm sure, listening, they're like, yeah, coffee,
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people, like, it's like Jack in the Box, really, but it's like one of those things where it's like, if I go to Starbucks, like, my habit is like, okay, I'm going to get something sugary because I want it to taste good, right? But at the same time, I also don't want to spend $6, $7. You know, so it's like, I'd rather just give, I guess, $4.
I'm not sure that it's gotten that expensive. So I usually get just like a cold brew.
I guess it depends on what you get.
It depends on what you get. My wife usually just gets whatever they have brewed, so it's not. It comes out to like $7, $8 for both.
Oh, okay.
And then I get the big boy, the Trenta.
Oh, okay.
Damn it! I just fucking. I did it, dude. I said the Trenta and the Venti and all that shit. Get the extra large,
It is what it is, bro.
Yeah. So breakfast burritos, huh? That's you have to have everything in it.
Yeah, because I don't think it's a breakfast burrito if you just have like one meat and like the cheese. I think it's just like a real breakfast burrito is like the works.
With hash browns in it?
Yeah.
You ain't fucking around.
No. If you don't feel like, you know how when you eat, when you get to the point of when you're full, you start feeling ill or like almost you don't feel good.
Yeah.
I think that's how a breakfast burrito has to be because it's worth it. It's worth it to me.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So let's start transitioning into baseball, man.
Yeah.
when did you first come across, suddenly the podcast? Like, I know people hit us up all the time. And so it makes me wonder, like, well, like, how did you guys find us? How did you guys find us? Well, how did you come across us?
Yeah, so I actually think it was beginning of this last. So yeah, I would say about maybe a little less than a year ago. I think Shaman had posted something on his page, or you guys were doing something. Maybe it was a baseball. Maybe you guys had mentioned the Tropics.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like that seems pretty cool. Like, Sunday League baseball podcast. So I looked into you guys and I was like, all right, this seems like they're having a good time. This looks actually like a pretty fun thing that these guys are doing. And so I think I started following you guys then. But me kind of being in already that like kind of small business or small project mindset, I was like, yo, I'm going to follow him and I'm going to give him a shout out because at the same time, I think it was not too long after Fitz was doing the nosebleed stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And so I messaged him and I was like, dude, this is like crazy how it's working out. Like how I was starting to build something. And then I came across you guys who, seemed pretty genuine and seemed like you guys really enjoyed what you were doing with the podcast. And Fitz building Nosebleed, and it was kind of like, yo, like, yeah, I'm going to follow him, but I feel like these guys deserve more shout-outs, I mean, you guys were probably already getting enough as it is.
You'd be surprised.
But,
yeah, you'd be surprised.
But yeah, no, I just really liked the way you guys how you guys presented everything. And yeah, that's why I was just like, you know what, just going to give you these guys a shout-out because I respect it, and at the same time, I was already just kind of leaving something and trying to build something else at that time too, so... That's kind of like how I heard you guys, excuse me, through Shaman, a post through Shaman. So
yeah, what were your first impressions? These knuckleheads on here drinking, talking about Sunday ball, Major League Baseball, and all that shit, having a good time.
No, because that was still a part of me. So it was like that was around that time a year ago was the back end of when priorities were starting to change. Gotcha. So it was kind of like I can still vibe with this group, but it's kind of like now a few months after was really when I started to hone in on different responsibilities and priorities that I had. But either way, you guys were building it and you guys were having fun. So that's something that I always respect.
Yeah. Nice. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you. So, obviously here we like to have a good time, but baseball itself is full of good times and bad times. You're crushing everybody, you're slumping, but it's a journey, right? It's a journey. And so, tell us about your journey through baseball and like essentially how you ended up in the good old Sunday leagues.
All right. So
I know that sounds kind of weird, right?
No, it sounds perfect to me. So I think I've been playing since I was 5. So 21 years now, just playing. And I remember, I can't remember the exact age, but I was maybe 7 or 8 years old, and my mom had basically given me a decision of like, you know what, like you like catching and you like playing third base. Which one do you want to do? And like, take it to the end. And I was like, you know what, I think catching. And at the time, I still had that bit of like, man, no, I don't really think that's a good idea.
Right.
But no, I just said, I was like, you know what, I'll try catcher out, see how it goes. And so technically been catching since I was, I would say around 7 or 8. And like the little league that I came up in, it was a lot of fun, and I had a lot of good relationships with. And then I got into travel ball, I would say right at 10 years old. And go figure, the first travel ball tournament I'm ever in, it's Moreno Valley in the summer, about 115 degrees, but there's a storm in the area.
At Sunny Mead Park, by any chance?
I can't remember. It's been a while.
Big ass park right off the freeway.
Probably. That's probably where they scheduled us for. But go figure. My very first tournament was 115 in Moreno Valley, and it starts to rain, but it's warm rain. And it was kind of like, all right, well, this is a pretty good intro into, travel ball and everything. And I think it was from there where I was like, you know what? It's going to be tough, but I think I can handle it. Like, it's just one of those things where you got to learn to take hits. You got to learn to, not be the star of the show, because it's pretty much the pitcher. That's what my mom would always remind me of. It's like, look, pitcher throws a perfect game or a no-hitter or a shutout, whatever. It's like some credit's going to be given to the catcher, but who are they talking about?
Yeah,
they're talking about the pitcher, and
it
I
was
was
the
like,
one in the record book,
right? And I was like, no, like it's not that. It's just, can I hold it down defensively? And ever since a young age, I remember being very hard on myself for, you know, if I didn't do well defensively, I'm like, this is my job.
Right.
Like, this is what I'm supposed to do. You know, it's like, I'm the stereotypical catcher of like, I'm not going to bat 300, but I'm going to have a pretty solid defensive season.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's kind of like at a young age. And I just, from then on out, it was like, I'm all in, you know, good, bad, ugly, whatever. I'm all in on catching because I grew to really love it. And, yeah, just so going on to travel ball as I got older, I was actually blessed to be around a lot of good players and competing against a lot of good programs. So I want to say, if I'm correct, I want to say that I was a part of EM's first travel ball team.
Okay.
When
EM speed and power.
Speed and power training, yeah.
Rain
So
Rancho, yep.
Yep. So they were in a smaller building at the time.
Okay.
And we were the Rancho Quakes because the facility was right across from Quake Stadium.
Yeah. Okay, I know which one.
Yeah. Off of Jack Benny.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say almost the first year, dude, like we didn't win a tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just the typical like, yo, we're getting handed like left and right by everybody. And then all of a sudden we kind of merged with another team. I think it was like the High Desert Express through connections or whatever. I didn't understand it because I was like 10 or 11 or 12. But then I remember from when we merged and when we kind of changed up the format a little bit with practices and how we go about games, it almost was like just a straight shot to being, you know, state ranked and almost nationally ranked kind of a thing. So, you know, it was fun. Definitely like I said, some tough losses along the way. But I think what had helped me get older through high school and college is that I was always playing up and I was always playing with some of the best in the area because that's just how it is. You're not going to get better by playing beneath you, right? So it's like one of those things where it transitioned really well as I got older. So, but yeah, and then high school, like I said, I mean, high school was weird for me. It was like pretty uneventful, to be honest. Like I wasn't a standout player by any means. Like I was just one of those guys that was there to work hard. I mean, people knew me as like a good teammate, but it was like I was there to work hard and try to take spots. But high school was like a weird, like, man, I'm not really playing to the best of my ability, and I don't know why. No matter how hard I would practice or change up, make adjustments, and all this other stuff that you try to do throughout the season, it was like, yeah, I'd have defensively, some good highlights, but I mean, I was probably at best below average when it came to hitting high school pitching, and you know, but yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like, yeah, I could say like there was other stuff going on behind the scenes that probably didn't help. But when I got to college, I played at Pasadena City College, PCC. There was when I was actually with like a legit staff to where like I had some poor habits that I picked up when I was younger that didn't necessarily get addressed or fixed in high school. And right away, my coaches chewed me out for it as often as they could because they were like, dude, like you're an adult now. Like we're not here to baby you. If you have these tendencies, you got to fix them on your own.
Right.
And I really appreciate that. I go back to Coach McGee. I think he's still there over at Pasadena City College. But, you know, I messaged him not too long ago and told him about what was going on with me this past year with the weight loss and with me building the business. And he didn't hesitate to reach back out and say, like, dude, it's awesome to hear. And if you ever need me or need any help, like, just reach out. And I was like, you know, that's awesome, dude. So appreciate it. But, yeah.
Okay. So after you didn't get looked at by anybody, you didn't never talk to like any organizations or anything like that?
I mean, I did every now and then. Like when I had my good years in travel ball, there were a few scouts in the area that I would talk to. But it's funny because I think the first tournament that I went to for like Sunday League, you know how we go out to Arizona and Vegas for those tournaments?
Yeah.
There was a scout out there. This was back when I was with, who was I with? I was with the Drillers, I believe. Yeah.
Fitz's favorite team.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was with the Drillers at the time, and that first game I had played pretty well, and there was a scout. I can't remember his name, but I think he was affiliated with Milwaukee or St. Louis. And he had mentioned like, hey, we have this like pro league in the summer, like, you know, we'd like to have you on. And he's like, you're only 21, dude. He's like, yeah, sure, you're getting up there for not getting really legit like looked at. But he was like, we'd like to have you play in our pro league or summer pro league, whatever, you know. And then after that, it was kind of just like, you know what, it is what it is. Like I had, like I said, I had other priorities going on at the time. So getting scouted wasn't really like the main thing that I was worried about. Right. You know, and it's like I've gotten better with age, but it's kind of like it was too late to the point of where like, okay, let me try and still get into a pro league, right? That kind of a thing. But you know, is what it is.
Yeah, there's a few like things like that in our areas. I know the California Winter League is going to start up soon. I don't know if in the future that's something you might want to look into, but a lot of dudes get picked up from there. They play. I was gonna say semi-pro. They play a lot. They sign a lot of dudes like to play independent ball in the frontier leagues and all that. And there's another one like out in the LA area, which I feel like it's year round. It's called the Zone 22. I haven't heard contract games, something like that. Yeah. So anybody that's like looking into something like that, it's called Zone 22. Oh, okay. Zone 22 LA or something like that. So you know, reach out. And it seems like they the way they put it is like they like to farm players, and so they just get players looked at. A lot of players end up playing like in the Mexican leagues, in the independent leagues, frontier league, and all that kinds of stuff. So it's pretty cool, you know. If there's ever like somebody that comes to you like I want to get looked at, and you feel like they can like they're ballers, I think that's a good place for them to maybe reach out to and you know, just to get looked at least. Yeah. And it's a good barometer for a lot of dudes. I know there are a couple guys have reached out to us about that specifically. And like, unfortunately, I don't have as much information as I'd like to have to give, but definitely I think it'd be a good barometer for somebody to at least look at you, especially for Sunday leaguers. You know, it seems like they might ask for like a video or something, like send us some videos and then we'll see if we invite you out. You know, and like I said, it's a good barometer for the top talent in our area at least. And you know, SoCal's just fucking saturated with it's talent, nuts. Dude. It's crazy. It's gotten so much better, dude. I can honestly say, like, I've played with and against a lot of like the best amateur talent in our area, dude. And you are now, you know, especially playing with the Tropics, in the Fontana Baseball League.
Yeah, and that's like I said, I wouldn't trade it like the way that kind of like my health and fitness took over, like in my transitioning into my mid-20s, because I would rather have it that way, where that wasn't my priority, you know, when I was in high school and college, but me figure it out before it got too late, kind of a thing. Right. So I wouldn't trade it for the world. If you said, okay, you're super fit at a young age, but then your health starts to go downhill as you get older, it's like, well, that's the last thing that I want. So
definitely.
But yeah.
So you played at PCC. Yeah, I was told that you stopped playing infield there for a specific reason. Would it be possibly because you lost a tooth there?
Okay, so like, who did you talk to?
just one guy.
Okay. Yeah, go figure. The one time I'm at third base in, I want to say 2 years, maybe even longer. So what had happened is we were taking BP. It was a lighter practice day, and I was in right field. And the guy who was shagging at third base was next up to bat, like in the next group. Okay. And I was after that group, so I was going to shag for another like 10 minutes before I got my chance to hit. And it's kind of like, you know, one of those feelings where you're like, okay, something might happen here, and it probably won't be for the better. That like feeling hit me the second I hit third base.
Oh, shit.
And the catcher at the time, who I was splitting time with, he hits a hard two-hopper, but when it hits the end, you know where like the grass, the lip, like where the grass and the dirt meet? Well, when it hit, it spun off faster, like at me, and I didn't have time to put my glove up. Right. And I was kind of like, at the time, I was like, oh, it was awkward because I hadn't fielded at third base in 2 years, so I didn't put myself in the best position. Right.
And then so, you're not used to reading hops off the bat either, yeah.
No, there was no way. That ball beat me by a long shot, dude.
It sounds like he topped it, but it's like he topped it real hard.
Hard, yeah. And it didn't help with the skip that it took. Yeah. So then I feel it hit my mouth, and I turn around. I don't fall down because that's something that my coach like kind of praised me for afterwards. Yeah. But I don't go down. I kind of stumble to the side, and I feel around for my lip. And all of a sudden, like, I don't feel my two front teeth.
Oh, shit.
And I'm like, I think one of the pitchers was right next to me. He saw it happen. And he looks at me. He's like, "Oh, fuck." And I was like, "Yeah, dude, I already know I can't feel my front teeth."
Right.
And I'm literally like, "Yo, Chase, can you find my teeth?" Like, that's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So he's going and he gets like a napkin or a paper towel and he's able to find them.
Damn.
And the way that the ball hit my mouth, the top part of the lip, is it basically pushed out the 2 front teeth whole. It didn't chip it like a normal tooth injury would.
Like this?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
For those that don't know, I got a chipped tooth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all right. But it had pushed both teeth out whole. Mm-hmm. And so here, like, he's holding in a napkin, like, my 2 front teeth. And I'm like, oh, dude, what? And then the only thing I could come up with to my coach when he asked me, he's like, "Dude, are you all right?" I was like, "Bro, he's because I saw his face, bro. He's trying to hold it together, but he's like, bro, I'd never seen this kind of injury before."
Yeah.
And I trying to like, one, try to not freak myself out and the teammates around me as much.
And talk.
Right? So he goes, "Dude, why are you so like," he's like, "Dude, what's up?" And I was like, "Coach, I didn't think I could get any uglier." And he's like, "Jesus Christ, kid." He's like, "Go to the hospital or go to the dentist or something." But he chuckled. He was like, because he knew what I was trying to do. And you know, we had talked afterwards once everything was settled, but just to kind of somewhat to not freak myself out for a second, I was like, "Coach," he's like, "What?" I was like, "I didn't think I could get any uglier." And he was like, "Fuck, Junior." He's like, "Just go to the dentist."
I didn't think that
exactly right. It didn't sound clearer, but you know. But so I had a teammate drive me all the way to my dentist, which was about an hour away because at the time I was still in Montclair. And so I get to my dentist, and you know, obviously she sees what's going on, and I tell her the situation. But she was able to manually push them back into the root.
Oh shit! And
she had told me afterwards that this was only the second time in 25 years of practice that she'd ever seen that.
Wow.
But you know, shout out to her. But yeah, this was back when I was, I think, 19 turning 20. Wow. A couple months before I was turning 20. But yeah, she was able to save them manually, or shove them in manually back to the root. But yeah, dude, that's one of the craziest things that had ever happened to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a wild story.
Did it mess up your game with the ladies?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like at that time,
probably a stupid question.
At that time, bro, I wasn't pulling anything. Like, if I'm being honest, like, just being as raw as I can, I wasn't pulling anything. It's just one of those things where it's like, that's why I told my coach, I was like, now I'm really not going to get a date, you know? Just, but no, yeah, it's just, that's always a funny story. And then I made sure to delete a photo because at the time I was like, dude, I don't want anybody to see this like picture of me with no front teeth.
Right.
And my mom always reminds me, she's like, we should have saved that picture. I was like, no, I'm glad I deleted it.
I imagine your least favorite song is "All I Want for Christmas Is My Two Front Teeth."
No, I actually bumped that.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
I think a picture with like an Instagram reel of that picture with that music over it would be gold.
The one time where I thought, man, I shouldn't have deleted it was send it as like a Christmas postcard.
Oh yeah,
with the lyrics.
That'd be perfect.
Yeah.
Or even like if you just glorify it with like a catcher's mask or something like that, some eye black and get all dirty and shit.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty sick.
That's one of those things where it's like, give me a little bit more time, and like, you know, it's kind of like I'll really laugh it off, but it's still like, dude, it was nuts.
That's just funny, dude.
I thought I was gonna walk around for a while with no front teeth.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
dude, I've practically lived my whole life. In second grade is when I chipped my my front tooth on a tetherball pole of all things. I was playing tag and just running away from people and just. Oh, okay. Dude, I was like looking back and running, and I turn around and blew right straight into the tetherball pole like a stupid ass. Nah, it wasn't fun, man, and like I never found the extra piece or nothing. Like I didn't even really realize what had happened until I walked into my classroom, and like you sit down, you know, you start like fiddling around with your teeth, and you're like, and I felt it. I'm like, what the fuck, you know? And I told the teacher, like, oh, teacher, I think I broke my tooth. She's like, what the hell? And so yeah.
So you must have been running full speed into that pole then.
Yeah, we're playing tag.
Oh yeah, so you're flying.
Yeah, and and growing up, I was fast as fuck, boy. You know. Okay, but now, dude, like I'm slow as shit. But that's what happened. Like, and I always tell people like it's part of my character. It's part of my character, and like I just I try to embrace it.
And honestly, in the grand scheme of things, you could have had so much, like, you could have had worse injuries. And then there's people who have worse injuries, to be honest. Like, it's literally not it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
It's just some teeth.
Whatever, right?
Definitely. And so, you busted your teeth, right?
Yeah.
Busted your teeth. They pushed them back in. So I would imagine that getting back on the field, especially for you behind the plate, like, yeah, you had the mask on, but you probably still have some reservations, like with a ball coming at you or ball in the dirt or something, or a foul ball tip, like straight into the mask, right? You probably definitely in the back of your brain.
Yeah.
So you definitely had to develop a certain mentality, which I think, for, maybe thinking about it, it probably helped you develop your catcher's mentality. So, like, what do you think would best describe a catcher's mentality?
I mean, first things first, like, you can't be afraid to take a hit. And that's what I tell some of my catchers is that, like, excuse me, if I get the sense that you're really afraid to take a hit, I'll work with it, and I'll just be like, hey, we got to work our way. Because I'm not, if I get the sense that they're feeling a little bit hesitant to block, I'm not going to throw as hard as I can in the dirt and be like, yo, like, you got to figure it out. It's one of those things where it's like, we'll ease into it. And I've had a few catchers who last year I worked with and they were terrified, and now they're blocking pretty well. But I think first thing that I look for is that they aren't afraid to block. There's no hesitancy to, like, do a backhand or kind of like, shy away from it. They just kind of have that instinct of dropping down and blocking it.
Right.
And just, kind of being, the vocal aspect is hard to develop because when you're young, it's like, in the back of your head, you don't want to sound stupid to your teammates.
Right.
Because you're calling out plays. You're calling out what the coach is telling you to call out, and you just don't want to sound dumb. And that's just kind of something that you get over with age. But for sure, it's definitely just drop down and block. And it's just having, I mean, with every position or with every sport, it's just you being able to listen and apply what your coach is telling you.
Right.
And having a little bit of that I don't want to say like natural born leader, but having that, like, okay, I could be better in 6 months if I just listen to coach and apply what coach is telling me, or 3 months, or however long I work with the kid. It's that I can see it. I have a couple who are like that, who, they won't talk. You won't get too much out of them.
Right.
But I can see it in their game of, like, this is what coach told me to do in this situation, so I'm going to try and apply it.
Right.
So,
which is essentially, as a coach, like, that's your goal.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Definitely. What do you think makes catching an art? And it's a dying art, where we're going with baseball today, which we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Oh yeah. It's honestly fun to talk about because it's like, the way that you receive pitches is an art. The way that you call games is an art. The way that you interact with your pitcher is kind of, it's the battery, right? Yeah. You guys have to be on the same page or else it won't work. You have to pick up tendencies or poor habits that your pitcher isn't recognizing or that he's not feeling. You have to, in a sense, control your defense. But as you get older and you play at a higher level, they kind of do that on their own because they kind of know where to be in certain situations. But definitely with receiving, blocking, and throwing runners out, when I see all three of those aspects being done really, really well, then it's kind of like you're looking at an art form. And that's what like I said, going back to the catchers and the kids who I coach, is that, sure, they have, so I'll have some kids who are really good at throwing down to second or blocking, but then their receiving's poor. Or I'll have catchers who come to me and they're like, hey, their receiving's actually pretty good. Their blocking just isn't that great. And when they start when they start getting better in the things that they were poor when they first saw me, I love seeing everything kind of mesh together. Because it's really awesome to see, like I said, a catcher who receives, blocks, calls a game, throws runners out, being done really well consistently. Yeah.
Very nice. So I've been told, you've taken the worst of beatings behind the plate, a la the butcher.
Right.
Is there? Well, I could throw this question in. Who are some of the best pitchers that you've ever caught? Like maybe guys that have gone on to play professionally, or even just in the Sunday leagues in general. Maybe,
I know.
Maybe guys that probably deserve to get a chance.
That's true. That's a good question. I think off the top of my head, there's a reliever from the Phillies. His name's Bailey. He's a big lefty. Bailey Falter, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
He was one of the best pitchers I caught in my 12 to 13-year-old year of travel ball. I think, I don't know if he's still with the Phillies, but he was definitely in their bullpen, I think, this past season or two. He was, like I said, one of the best left-handed pitchers I had ever caught. RJ Peace, who's with the Miami Marlins. I don't know if he's AA or AAA, but I had the pleasure of catching him for, I think, a year. And then Solomon Bates from the Giants organization. I want to say he was with the Norfolk Tides, and then I think he played in Venezuela this past season.
Okay.
But he was with the Giants for a little bit. Their AA or AAA organization. I think I had one more in mind. I can't think of it, but I mean, like, honestly, like, I'd throw Shaman up there only just because, one, he's always thrown hard.
Yeah.
And he's always had one of the best right-handed curveballs I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's how it was at 12 years old. It was trippy, and I think that's probably what helped me a little bit with receiving when I was younger, is that he's always had nasty stuff.
Yeah.
And so it helped me get to that next level of receiving pitchers who threw nasty stuff or who threw really firm.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would say I would throw him into the mix too. Yeah.
What would you say is like the difference in mentalities, or just like in their physical mannerisms? The difference between like a professional and or somebody that's like on their road to playing professional ball versus like somebody that's just not, like, they're gonna get to college and they're just gonna stop.
Like, are you talking about like skill set or more of like demeanor?
Demeanor.
Definitely the catcher who doesn't complain, because it's kind of like, it's one of those things where it's like, sometimes you have the right to complain. I get it. But it's one of those things where it's like some of the best catchers that I've ever seen, even if, so they were accountable with their mistakes, and even if something wasn't their fault, they kind of wore that, because it was like, damn, maybe I could have done something differently, even though he had nothing to do with the play.
Yeah. And
it's kind of like that level of accountability is a good foundation to have. One, obviously you have to have the skill set.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have to have the skill set, and obviously you just got to be a workaholic at it. But definitely that accountability and that just not really complaining, whether it's a bad call. Obviously stick up for your pitcher, especially when it's bad. But I think it's just, again, it's weird to me seeing a catcher at a high level start complaining too much.
Right.
Or just kind of start whining a little too much, because it's like the way that I affiliate catching is with, okay, just like shut up and do your job.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. You know, you have to block, you have to receive, you have to call a great game, you got to move your defense, you got to read subtle tendencies that are going on between the game. And, you know, just because to me, that's the toughest guy on the field.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
If it's the guy, and if it's the guy who's whining, then get me someone else. Like if my shortstop or third baseman is tougher than my catcher, I'll say, hey, why don't you go catch?
Right.
Because I'm tired of hearing this guy complain. So, yeah.
If you ask me to go catch, ain't no way I'm catching.
No, you're not down?
No, I'm not, dude.
Or does it depend on the pitcher?
No, dude. I can't be back there. I don't know what it is.
You wouldn't want to catch Shay?
I might. No. I face Shay. Like, he's fucking filthy, dude. He actually struck me out once. So I probably owe him $5, it's up long overdue. You know, I see Shaman often. So shit, I lost my train of thought. Well, I'll ask you this: how do you prep for a pitcher, like, mentally that you've never caught? For example, like in the Sunday leagues, you're probably going to catch a new guy, you know, often.
Yeah.
You know, maybe not right now, but if you're like a team hopper and shit like that, how do you prep for him? For example, like, what do you look for? How the ball comes out of the hand, like, where are your eyes at? What are you expecting? It's also, I'm sure it's things that you like pick up in the bullpen, when you know, pregame, warming up, and all that. You guys talk, you know, like, essentially, like what do you pick up on as the game progresses, pitch to pitch?
Yeah, so like if I'm catching a new guy, one, obviously I want to know what he throws, right? All of his pitches. If he throws 2 pitches or 7, you know, I want to know all of them. But in the bullpen is where I get a sense of like, okay, what are his top 2 or 3 pitches? And it's like, okay, you can throw 5, but if 2 are good, then you know what I'm mostly going to call are those 2 pitches. If he starts developing those other 3 pitches in a game and he's throwing them for strikes, then yeah, I'll start mixing it up more. But the bullpen is where you do a lot of like kind of your mental research of like, okay, does he drop his elbow on certain pitches? Does he open up his front leg too early? Does he keep himself locked up? Does he do anything with his glove or his body that would indicate like, oh, an off speed or a fastball's coming? Because good hitters pick up on that. They're like, oh, he moved his glove just a little bit or he turned it a certain way, so I think an off speed's coming.
Tipping pitches, Tipping
pitches, right? So it's kind of like I look for all of that in the bullpen.
You're so like that firewall. You're like emphasis on wall because like you have to be a wall back there, you know, and you got all this fire coming at you. So you're essentially a firewall.
Right. Yeah. That's a good way to. I never described it that way. That's a good way to look at it, honestly. And because if I don't, it's not gonna help us. Like I'm trying to the battery. I'm trying to make it as best as we possibly can throughout the game. Right. Yeah. So if I'm not doing my job, if there's clearly something that he's doing wrong with his pitches or with his body or maybe demeanor, maybe I got to pick him up a little bit. Then it's just not overall not going to help the team. Yeah. So
yeah, dude, catchers are definitely men of the people. Like in a way, you know, because like leaders, like they're like I'm a man of the people, like the people's champ, you know, shit like that.
Yeah, and actually that's a good point because you reminded me of a conversation I had with one of my 13-year-old catchers. Is a big thing is understanding when and when not to call time, and they're kind of still like struggling a little bit to like understand the tempo of a game. So like I would do drills if like they're calling a game to me and I'm throwing to them. And I tell them, hey, you got to look for something that I'm doing wrong, kind of like what we just talked about. Am I tipping pitches? And then call time and let me know. So that's a drill that I'll do with my catchers. But the other thing is if I'm just dialed in, throwing strikes, the last thing you're going to do is call time and come out and talk to me because the tempo and the rhythm's broken. Right. You know, so I tell them that too. I'm like, look, if you see me struggling, if you just see like I don't got it right now, something's off, call time and just come talk to me. Yeah. Right? Maybe it's something subtle, not so serious, or even if it is, like you can start reading the way that, like the game's going and how your pitcher is pitching. Yeah. But like I said, the last thing you're going to do is when you and your pitcher are dialed in and for whatever reason you just call time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of catchers from movies like in Boulder, for example, Crash Davis. I think him and in Major League, Jake Taylor, the two catchers, I think they really like embody what catchers like should really be. You know, like just there's natural leaders on the field, and Jake Taylor ends up like managing the damn team in the sequel. But specifically like Crash Davis, dude, he's on your ass. You know, he's almost like in a way like I'm not gonna fucking baby you. Not a father figure, but like just like an older brother. You know, he's an older brother to Nuke in the picture in the movie. So it's really cool to see like that dynamic, especially like if I played with you guys, I would watch you guys and just study you guys like why are they both like that or you know your relationship with the pitchers on the staff and things like that. So you know, because me, I'm very like people watchy. I like to watch like people's mannerisms and like you understand more about people. Like there's a quote that I always kind of like revert to like who you are when nobody's watching is who you'll be when you least expect it, type of thing. Right. And so like me, like I tend to watch like everybody. Like, I watch people's mannerisms on the field, like oh, like this guy's too far this way, or like his head's out of the game, things like that.
And people will show their hand too, just given a situation, because you can pick up the good and the bad patterns right away. It just depends on the situation, you know. Yeah. So.
Yeah, especially like if somebody's not mentally prepped for something like that, you know, and it's crazy because like for me, baseball really makes me tick like that. Like I'm just like not that I get my jollies off of doing shit like that, right? But like it really like just baseball and watching players and how they their mannerisms on the field and what they do as players, as individual players, like it really makes me like I'm just real curious. So I'm always just watching, and I tend to not have like in-depth conversations in the dugout because I'm watching what's going on out there, you know, especially like you said, like a lot of times they'll tip their hand, you know, they'll show you what's going on, and everybody in life will always show their hand, dude. Everybody tips their hand. We're all guilty of it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so like that's what makes me tick in baseball. What is it about baseball that makes you tick?
Honestly, like we were talking about earlier, like this was the first, maybe the past 2 seasons where I really didn't watch any Major League Baseball. Even though I coach it all the time now, it's kind of one of those things where the last thing I want to do is put on the TV and watch a baseball game because I've been coaching all day. You know, I mean, I still enjoy it. I still like going to games like, you know, Angel Dodger games. I want to try to go to a Padres game this year. But I think the thing that makes me tick now, kind of reflecting on it now that I'm older, is it's kind of like it's the memories that I've built through baseball. Like so many fun memories, so many amazing people and teammates that I've met throughout the years. And like I said, it's been 21 years of playing technically, you know, so it's like travel to
that's a whole adulthood.
Right. Yeah. Right. So, you know, I've been to New York, Arizona, Vegas. I think we played up in NorCal too. And then maybe another state that I'm forgetting, but it was like I made a lot of homegrown memories here in San Bernardino and Orange County and LA County, and a lot of good memories outside of California too. Yeah. And, you know, whether, like I said, with teammates, building relationships, or after tournaments, we'd go to a really bomb food spot and we'd all just enjoy and hang out, whether it was a tough loss or a great win. Yeah. It was kind of like, I think that's what helped me become a foodie even more and build memories from it was that, that aspect of it. Yeah.
Nice. So you had mentioned, you know, like that you don't watch Major League Baseball as much anymore, but, you know, I usually ask people like who's your favorite team?
So, and this is kind of where like my mom was trying to like my mom had a little sense of betrayal when I told her this. Okay. Because my mom has been a diehard Angel fan since she was young. Yeah, ever since she was she was 9 or 10 years old, something like that. She loved watching the old school Angel player. They had the old school jerseys on at the time, and she loved the colors and everything in the stadium. But I think when I started watching the Oakland A's play when I was like 8 or 9 years old, it was something about how there was no household names, but it seemed like they always took it to the big market teams. Right. And it was like, I loved their, I can't remember what year it was. I think it might've been 2000 to 2002. Their black and green jerseys.
Oh, I know which ones you're talking
about. The old alternate.
And it said, did it say Oakland?
Yeah, I think it was Oakland, yeah. But it was black with green lettering.
Yeah, I know exactly which ones. Yeah.
And ever since I was a kid, I was like, I actually dig that, like that color scheme. So
don't tell me that you're an Oakland A's fan.
Well,
or no, we're not there yet.
It's like, honestly, like, yeah, you could say I'm a fan, but it's like, do I watch their games? Like, not really. Like, I know, like, my sister and a friend have hooked it up with jerseys, but like, I never wear them. Right. It's one of those things where it's like, you know, growing up, I just love the way that they played, and I love their colors. But it's like you can't necessarily put me in with like the actual like fan group kind of a thing, you know? Right.
Yeah, the diehards in Oakland, man. Like last year, we went on a 3-game series. The Red Sox were up in Oakland, and you know who the diehards are. Like they're diehard, bro.
Right away, yeah.
It's crazy. Like the stadium's trash. Although I kind of like the stadium. Like it's real old school.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
It has a lot of people just bash it, but it's like, first of all, they got food, they have baseball, and they have drinks. Like what more do you want? Right. You know, you want to be catered to. Like no rats ran past me.
And I think like, you know? people who say that are the ones that are used to like the more uppity stadiums and areas, and it's kind of like I'd be psyched to go to an Oakland A's game, but it's kind of the thing where it's like, it's again coming from not really watching the past 2 seasons, I kind of know what goes on here and there from news and stuff. Yeah. But it's like I'm not gonna be that actual like what you call the definition of a fan is technically.
So then who's your team? Gun to your head.
Okay, well then if you just said straight up who's a team that you would go for, it'd probably just be the Oakland A's then.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
I've never got that one. I do know one Oakland A's fan. And he was actually on the podcast before, one of the hosts of Top of the Lineup. His name's Juan. Yeah, that's Juan. I was going to say Soto. Okay. Soto's the Giants fan. Juan is the A's fan.
Okay, gotcha.
Juan grew up being a catcher as well. He actually offered to answer all the Ask a Catcher stuff that we'll get to a little bit later. Sweet. But that's your stuff. That's what you're going to answer. So you know, growing up, you would watch Major League Baseball.
Yeah, right? Yeah. It was a lifestyle. It was, you know,
baseball's life, the rest is just details kind of thing.
basically that's
Yeah.
how it was.
Yeah, that was the motto growing up. At least for me.
Mhm.
At least for me, like in like my little circle of friends, like we're like, yeah, like we're all dorky about it and shit.
Yeah.
But there's nothing better than a baseball dork, dude.
Right.
You know, but so growing up, like which MLB catchers best represented your style of play, or like who you would like you'd pick apart this catcher and pick apart that catcher, and you like, you know, molded your game.
Mm-hmm. No, that's a good question. I think when I was growing up, I think watching the Molina brothers was pretty good. I would kind of pick apart how they would set up for certain pitches or with certain pitchers, how they would block their footwork with throwing guys out. Because I mean, they all had cannons.
Right.
You know, let's be real. But I think as I started to get older, and this kind of like going back to what I teach, this new style of basically shortstops being catchers, from how athletic their footwork is and how strong their arms are, and not being the stereotypical like chubbier catcher.
Right.
I would say Yan Gomes, because he's by far one of the best framers and blockers I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And a guy who I really like is JT Realmuto from the Phillies.
Okay, yeah.
You could argue that he's probably the most athletic catcher in the world right now in any league.
Mm-hmm.
But he does a very good job of setting up to not only block but receive off-speed pitches.
Mm-hmm.
So if you watch his game, he sets up as if, okay, if he throws it for a strike lower part of the zone, he's going to frame it really well. But he's so good at reacting that he's already prepared if you spike that ball.
Right.
And I mean, I catch guys who throw hard, but he's catching dudes 95 plus.
Yeah, he's throwing the hardest guys in the world.
The hardest throwers in the world. So it's like I kind of pick apart from certain catchers who I enjoy watching, and I kind of go, okay, this guy's really good with footwork, throwing somebody out at second or third, whatever, back picks to first.
Yeah.
And then I'll go, okay, this guy is one of the best receivers I've ever seen. And then this guy's blocking technique, how he develops demeanor and relationships with the pitchers.
Yeah.
And if he goes out and sees something right away that he doesn't like or the pitcher doesn't notice, he's immediately like, yo, you got to fix this.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Nice. Before we go into Cup Check, I'm going to ask you two more Sunday League related questions.
Sweet, let's do it.
What are your thoughts on the current state of Sunday Leagues right now?
I feel like you have so many more guys like who could probably answer this question a little bit better.
Okay. I'll put it like this. How has social media affected the Sunday Leagues, in your opinion, where it's at now?
I think it's kind of like it's like anything with social media. Like it could give you a platform and it could give you something that's like, okay, well, we hadn't heard about this. Like, what's this? And obviously you click on it, you find out more research about it, or, you know, whatever, you watch more videos, look at more posts. I think in a way it's helped grow a little bit, because when I started in Sunday League, there wasn't really anybody posting about it. And this was only 3 or 4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now it's kind of like almost every other random feed. Sorry about that. Hit the cord. Every other random feed that I get is like some random league somewhere in a different county.
Yeah.
And that's what I've noticed is that like I'll be scrolling through my Instagram and I'll get a random feed of, you know, how the Sunday League fields are. Like you obviously know.
Yeah.
You click on it and you're like, they're playing somewhere like trashy or whatever.
Yeah.
Not as nice, right?
Yeah.
And that's the big difference that I've seen is that, yeah, I'll get random feeds from some of the leagues in the area, and they'll post highlights, or somebody goes three for three and hits a home run, and they'll say like, oh, it's this team from this league.
Yeah.
Whereas I didn't see any of that 3-4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's how can I phrase the question? Like how dope is it to you, in your opinion? Like when would you rather like the team highlight itself, or like the team highlighting the league that they're from? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I kind of get what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're talking about like, okay, if a team has a page and they only highlight themselves rather than the league that they're from.
Yeah, or it's kind of like the Hammered Heads from the Fontana Baseball League.
Yeah.
Like, because it kind of puts like both of them on the
Right.
map versus like only putting just the team on the map, right?
I mean, yeah. I mean, if you're active on the page enough, I think a good healthy split between the two is like maybe a couple posts you could just have like just your team, and then maybe a couple other posts later just have it involve the league that you're from.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like I'm really neutral with all that because as long as you're trying to get more eyes on you, like again, I can respect that. So
Yeah. Well, shit, man. I mean, for right now, your cup's looking kind of empty. So is mine. So we're just gonna go into cup check.
let's do it.
We'll be back.
Hello.
Up to the plate, Junior Shockley.
What's wrong?
I'm a little nervous. My old man's here.
Your dad's here? Where's he at?
He's right behind home plate. Don't look. Don't look.
Look, he's waving. Hey, he's just your old man. He's as full of shit as anybody.
Hey, what's going on?
Breathing through the wrong fucking eyelid again, dude.
Shut up.
Hey, did you guys hear about Jimmy and Millie?
Yeah.
They got engaged. Can you believe that? Oh, yeah? Well, wait till I tell him she's gone down on half the Carolina League.
Hey, anybody says anything bad about Millie, I break his neck.
Excuse me, guys. I got a game to pitch here.
Mira, una brujería, yo no sé. Hey, you guys, don't throw me anything. My girlfriend put a curse on my glove.
I'll take the X off the fucking glove. Give me the glove.
Well, then you gotta cut the head off a live rooster.
What the hell's going on out there?
Looks like a convention. Pretty soon they're gonna call the roll.
Get your ass out there and check it out.
But
Excuse me, what the hell's going on out here?
Well, Nook's scared because his eyelids are jammed and his old man's here. We need a live, was it a live rooster? We need a live rooster to take the curse off Jose's glove, and nobody seems to know what to get Millie or Jimmy for their wedding present. Is that about right?
that's right.
We're dealing with a lot of shit.
Okay, well, candlesticks always make a nice gift, and maybe you can find out where she's registered, maybe a place setting or maybe a silverware pattern's good. Okay, let's get to it. Let's go.
And we're back. Junior, what are you drinking?
That same bourbon.
Same bourbon, just a nice little refill.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna add it to the bar. And like I said, we don't really drink too much or that often, but it's definitely one that I'll add to the bar for sure. It's really good. Appreciate it.
No, definitely, man. I mean, I would love to kill this bottle, dude. I'm not gonna lie. So, what do you think, man? What do you think about the cup check clip?
I think it was pretty fun because it's like I hadn't seen that part. I told you I'd seen like a couple minute clips.
Yeah.
Flicked through the TV and saw it was on, but like I said, I never really sat down to watch the whole thing. But like where they were discussing on that mountain visit about a bunch of random stupid stuff. Like, I was telling you earlier, I was like, some of the best infield I've ever been around and teammates and everything is, regardless of whether they were studs or not, you know, when they knew that me and my pitcher were stressing out, whoever it was or whatever, like we'd call time. You know how it is. It's strict business. Like we're both in the shitter sometimes, and it's kind of like, look, we got to try and get out of it. But then here's your infield coming in and saying like, you know, knowing the tension, knowing the circumstances, and then all of a sudden someone goes, hey, you know, John went out with so-and-so, and we're like, there's no fucking way. John's too ugly for her, you know? And it's kind of like, but you see how everybody gets a little laugh, and it's kind of like, you know, it eases that tension because I'll be honest, I'm not always the best at trying to ease the tension. I mean, for the most part, I can, but sometimes, like, you know how it is as the competitor and as the stakes get higher and higher, especially with playoffs or championship games, it's kind of like I won't always be able to ease the tension. So I love when my teammates or anybody, for example, can just say something stupid like that and ease the tension. Yeah.
So can you recall, like, probably maybe the funniest thing you've ever heard, or you know, maybe not the funniest, but something just kind of way like out of the ordinary? Like, really, bro? Like, that's what you came up with?
I think there was actually was I think a question that we talked about after the game. So I think it wasn't like me or the pitcher's moms, but it came up as like, okay, I think either the right fielder and the left fielders, okay, like, because I think we had dinner at both of their houses, because pretty much, honestly, from travel ball, I went to almost everybody's house and had a dinner at least once.
Right.
And I think there was a debate about whose pasta was better between the right fielder's mom and the left fielder's mom. And I think it was, I forgot what pasta it was. I think they were two different, honestly. Yeah. but we kind of kept it for a little bit like in the infield because somebody was like, no, dude, like, you know, I can't remember the name, but like Nick's mom's pasta was way better. Like that shit smacked.
Right.
And all of a sudden the shortstop's like, dude, there's no fucking way. Like,
right.
You know, John's mom or whatever has a way better pasta or whoever. Right. And it's just kind of like, we thought about it for a second and we were like, yo, that's actually a good question.
Yeah.
Like, not gonna lie, but it's just one of the like I wasn't expecting that at all. You know?
Yeah. Is your family like big into Italian cooking? You're half Italian, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're from Rimini. Yeah, Rimini, like that coastal town.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, I told you earlier, you know, there's a lot that I want to do in the States. But we had mentioned, I think my sisters and I had mentioned a trip to, you know, the town where you know, my grandparents, or I think it was my grandpa was originally from. My grandma was straight out of the heart of Texas. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we're very big on like the meats and pasta. So it's kind of like growing up, it was kind of one of those things where I didn't realize how much I was eating because it's all good food, you know, and you know how some of us are raised. It's like, you're going to eat everything on your plate, you know, and because it's just kind of the respect.
It's a culture thing too.
It's a culture thing. Yeah. And as I got older, like I said, I started realizing, okay, like maybe I'm eating a little too much. As bomb as this food is, I might need to chill out a little bit. Yeah. You know,
I'm super guilty of that. Like if I'm enjoying something, I'm gonna crush it. Like, is there more? Can I get some more? Like, is everybody done? Because you know, I usually like, especially with pizza, dude. I'm a fucking pizza whore, bro.
Feel that.
But like, I'll usually ask like if there's one last slice, and I'm like I'm fiending for it. I'm just like, I gotta eat that slice, you know. And I'll ask, like, I'll be polite and be like, do the polite thing. Does anybody want this last slice? You know, is everybody cool? Because I won't say because I really want it, but like everybody kind of.
But they'll sense it. They'll sense it. They'll be like,
just go ahead and eat it.
You could have just grabbed it and said, you know, fuck everybody. You could have just grabbed the last piece and we would have been cool with it. Yeah. Well, that's funny that you mentioned pizza because a couple people this week, you know how I think you saw my story about how I'm doing push-ups and asking stupid food questions.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, it was surprising that so many people were for the pineapple on pizza. I thought it'd be the other way around.
Right.
But so like a good friend of mine who I was at his house, dropped off some merchandise that he had wanted. He was the same exact way. We had said like, you know, if you put a box of pizza in front of us and nobody stops us or nobody like wants a bite of that, like we're going to go through the whole box.
Yeah.
And I think it's just one of those things where if you don't catch yourself, you all of a sudden you're 5 or 6 slices in.
Yeah. And I think the thing with pizza too is like it brings people together. Mm-hmm. And it reminds me of the episode in The Office where like I think the warehouse and the office, like the warehouse workers and the office workers, like they're kind of they're trying to figure something out as like who's working overtime. Or I don't really remember exactly, but the point is that Michael buys pizza for everybody, and then everybody starts, you know, everybody's just digging in and shit, and then everybody's just cool, like. They're just nodding at each other like this fucking pizza's legit.
And the thing too is as you get older, what do you equate like going out like or getting pizza, going out like celebrating, or like ordering pizza? You affiliate it with alcohol. So it's kind of like for me, the worst times that I felt after eating a meal is when I've had 3 or 4 slices of pizza, but I've also had a giant mug of beer. You know, so it's kind of like that's where it's like I think as an adult, you equate like, oh, if I'm gonna eat pizza, what do I need with it? I need alcohol, beer, whatever. You know.
Yeah, and then the pizza, like you kind of relate it to pizza party, like it's a celebration. Yeah, you know, we got to celebrate something, man.
Yeah.
You had mentioned earlier too, like on your Instagram, you were doing like Chili's versus Applebee's.
Yeah, that one honestly, and like I said, I'm trying to be as honest as possible, right? I just kind of threw it up there as like a whatever. I was like, you know what? I'm out for a jog. So where I live off of Baseline in Fontana, there's like a wash like with power lines and there's like a dirt trail. And I'll usually go for a jog every other day. I'll usually jog when I'm not going to the gym and lifting weights and stuff. And I was just like, look, there's a bench. I haven't done like modified push-ups in a while. So I got on one of the benches and I was like, and no joke, I've thought about that question before because like I was telling you, like we come up with like random food questions all the time just to spark up conversations. And when I had posted it, it was like, I think immediately there was like 7 to 10 people that got back to me about like Chili's all the way, dude, or No, Applebee's, and then a couple neutrals where it's like you can get food or get drunk at either place.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I see that. That's kind of like where I'm at. And like I said, with Chili's, it was kind of like a bias kind of a thing because I built a lot of good relationships with like the Chili's that I would go to with friends. But dude, I was honestly surprised at how many people got back to me and were so like passionate about is Chili's all the way, or those people that were like it's Applebee's all the way, dude.
Yeah. I think again referencing The Office, like business gets done at Chili's, but I think Applebee's probably has the better bar environment. I think. Yeah, I could be wrong though.
I think it depends on where you go. And,
I think
and
it depends which one
and
the staff. Yeah. Also probably like the layout of the building and stuff, because like it can be Chili's, but it could like used to be in like a pizza parlor or something. Right. You know, like it just depends. Yeah, it's a lot of variables to take into consideration. Yeah. But yeah, man, you got any more food stuff that you want to get off your chest?
I mean, I'm getting hungry now, but honestly, I was on my phone and I jot things down on notes. Like when I think about something and, you know, so I don't want to lose that thought, I'll jot them down on my notes. And I had already had like another 2 or 3 food questions that I was going to have set up. Okay, if I'm at the gym or again, if I'm doing push-ups randomly or down by the wash, like I was already coming up with other dumb food questions like, you know, okay, so if you have, or like where are the best fries, or if you do have those fries, is it ranch or ketchup? You know, or is it In-N-Out or Whataburger? You know, right? So that kind of stuff.
What was your best French fries then? That's a tough question.
I think I had talked about this with my younger sister. Because like I said, dude, randomly we'll just be like, "Yo, where's your favorite place right now?" Or like all time. But we both agreed that when Del Taco had the obviously they still have the crinkle cut fries or whatever. But when they used to sell them in the giant soda cup. Oh, like we would always get like, we were like fry freaks, so we would always like order the large. Like we don't want no small order of fries. Of course, like, these are bomb, and we want the big as you can get us. And it was kind of like a nostalgia thing, because it was just like we both agreed that, you know, Del Taco has some of the best fries, but it's kind of like the fact that you get it in a giant soda cup is what kind of made it nostalgia for us. Yeah.
I can't think of where I've had these fries, but like I could just kind of describe it like good crispy fries with like seasoned salt. Yeah. But with barbecue sauce. Oh fuck! Like dip it in, instead of ketchup, use barbecue sauce. Yeah. Dude, I think that's my that would be my like my pick. I just don't remember where have I had these fucking fries. I just don't remember. But if I'm going classic, just fries and ketchup. I think Farmer Boys has really good fries because those fries stay crispy. Like I need some crispy fries. Every now and again, McDonald's could be okay, but I think it's important that fries stay crispy because you can come across these soggy ass fries like often. Often, and that's for me, it's a huge turn on.
It's like kind of one of the luck of the draw things where it's a hit or miss, especially with like fast food places. You know, it's real hit or miss. But I think like you reminded me too with the barbecue is that like I didn't realize how much I love barbecue until I started realizing I was collecting bottles from like different areas. Like I was either I found a cool website or a cool brand, or like I was out of state, and because that's kind of the thing. We all have the little thing that we buy when we're out of state, I guess. Yeah.
My wife, same shit. She does the little Starbucks mugs.
Exactly. Yeah. So for me, I would say it's like barbecue sauces. Oh, okay. And one of the best ones I've had, I think, was based out in Arizona, and I think it's called rattlesnake bite. And it's really not hot. There's a little bit of a kick, but the flavor was really, really good. And that was one of my favorites. I think I recommended it to a couple people. But it's like any day, I think I would still always just choose barbecue over either ranch or ketchup. Yeah. That's just me.
Interesting. So but barbecue sauce on a burger is okay, or?
Oh, dude, that's my go-to.
Okay. Yeah. It kind of gives me like a Western burger vibe.
Okay. So like basically my entire, like the little league diet of like 10 to 12 years old was if I wasn't eating a home cooked meal that my mom made or my parents made or whatever, it was a double Western bacon from Carl's Jr.
Yeah, fire with the onion rings and stuff. I would pull out the onion rings because I don't like onions. They're gross. Even fried onion rings. Like people are probably like, really, like that shit fucking. Nah, it's gross. I think it's nasty. I just not my go-to. I'm taking them out, but I like the flavor. Like it's weird. Like you use onions to like cook and stuff. Onion powder. It's good. It's delicious. But like like the onion itself, it's got to go.
Yeah.
Like my mom growing up, she would make a lot of sopita, like sopa and
Oh,
stuff.
okay, yeah.
And so she would use onions with like garlic powder and stuff. Whatever, however the hell she made
You
it.
still take them out?
I would still take them out. Yeah.
Okay.
But like I like the flavor of it. It's just weird. Like I don't
Yeah.
know. But just I think it's a texture thing.
That's just how I am. Like I told you with
No.
tomato, like I'm taking it out regardless.
So yeah, tomato's overrated in a burger, in a sandwich. It's so
Yeah.
overrated, man. Get it out of there.
Just
It's
give me the patty, drown it in sauce, and I'm good to go.
Yeah, exactly. Like the star of the show is the meat. That's what she said. There you go. Let's transition a little bit, man. Yeah, we got into this. Dude, I think we talked about food for like 15 minutes, man. Little food
That's
talk.
what I do.
That's perfect, dude. I love it. So let's transition, man. So when you and I first met, it was like a blind bro date of sorts, right? And like,
It's the best way to describe it.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And so you initiated, I accepted. We met up at an Aztec League game that featured the Yaquis and the Dukes, right? Shout out to the Yaquis. They won their championship today against the Hammerheads. So anyways, I shook your hand. My initial thoughts were like, oh, this dude is mentally strong, right? That was my initial thoughts of you. And the look in your eyes, they read like man with a purpose. And so we, watching the game, we're sitting down and we got into some deep conversations just like about life, its struggles, et cetera.
Right.
And like with me being a complete stranger to you, like you just opened up to me, and so for me, it kind of like it didn't like turn me off at all, but like, cause like the conversation was great.
You just weren't expecting it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so like, I feel like a lot of us, like we can relate in so many ways to some of the stuff that we talked about, know? And so like, can you talk to us about like your experience, your struggles, like your weight loss journey and like what you've done to overcome all these obstacles, just and to get you to where you're at today?
Yeah. No, it was a great question. And like I said, when we met up at that Aztec League game, it was, like I said, just good timing, right? Because again, mentally and physically, I'm a totally different person the past year or two than I was from, I would say 15 or 16 when I started developing unproductive or, for lack of a better term, bad habits. Up until I was, like I said, about 24. So almost a decade of and again, we're all young. We have that, right? We all go through those phases, but I think it was kind of like I was getting tired of it. It was a decade long of the same person with the same habits. And, to get into what actually made me click and change, specifically with the weight losses. So I was I'm about 6 feet and I would fluctuate between 225 and 240. And that's too heavy for a guy who's only 6 feet.
Right.
If I was 6'4", 6'5", it'd be dispersed differently.
Right.
Obviously. But I remember, so I was trying to, like I said, without doing any knowledge, going to anybody for a technique, I was trying to do one of the hardest lifting techniques that you could, which is just the deadlift. And so I had heavy makeshift weights. They were rusted. They were old. And I was just like, screw it. If I just keep lifting heavy, maybe eventually, I'll slim down. Right. Well, again, me not having any gym experience.
Right.
Just deadlifting a decent amount of weight. I can't remember, but I know it was way too heavy for me to even attempt. I had started feeling these little back spasms. And, I took it as regular back stiffness or tightness because I'm not used to working out and lifting heavy weights.
Yeah.
So, a couple days go by and I'm like, okay, well, it's not going away. Let me try and take some medication. And still, if anything, it's going up in intensity.
Right.
So me waiting till the last second to say anything, I was hanging out with my ex at the time, and we had gone to this breakfast place. And as soon as I get up out of the car to stand up and start walking out, the whole, the middle part of my back to the lower, where I feel my tailbone, just spazzed up. I've never gotten tased, but I think that's a pretty close comparison.
Yeah.
So I buckled really, really hard, and I had to almost go down on a knee. And, you know, me being super stubborn and not wanting to, you know, kind of ruin something that we were looking forward to for a while. I hadn't tried this breakfast spot, so I was really psyched. And so I'm just like, you know, whatever, I'll walk it off. And I can't even walk properly at this point. Like, people are noticing, like, yo, like, you've got an injury going on. You're just not saying anything. Yeah. And so we sit down, and it's one of those, like, those hard, small wooden chairs. They weren't I mean, restaurant style. Right. And as soon as I sit down, the spasms get worse. And so every say minute or two, just another spasm. And like I said, my ex at the time was just like, yo, something's up. Like, I couldn't even enjoy my meal because it was hurting so bad. And, you know, I let another 5-6 hours go through of just constant spasms of like, look, the medication will help. Up until about 6 or 7 p.m. in the evening, I just decided, I'm like, yo, I need to go to San Antonio Hospital. Wasn't too far. It was maybe like 10 minutes away. And they put me in the wheelchair. And obviously they helped me out of the car, put me in the wheelchair. And at the time, it was the whole thing with like COVID. So like nobody could come in with me. So now I'm wheeled into the lobby, still dealing with, you know, again, it keeps ramping up in intensity. It's not staying the same. It's not going down. It just keeps going up. So I'm feeling worse as the minute goes on. So it's a good half an hour of this before they admit me into a room. And the first thing I told the nurse, I was like, look, I'm not trying to sound like a wuss or anything, but like, do you get this often with bad back pain? And she's like, we see it all the time. She's like, it's nothing to make you feel like a wuss about. Like, you can't stand. So it's kind of like something serious is going on. Like, you're not trying to be like a wuss or trying to, you know, downplay anything. Something's wrong. And so it took, I think, 2 or 3 morphine shots to start just relieving an intensity, not getting rid of the pain, but just a little bit of relief. And then I want to say, so I was admitted maybe like 7:30. I want to say I got back home like 10:30, 11 o'clock, maybe a little bit later. But when I got back home was finally when I started to feel some relief from the shots or, you know, from the care. I mean, shout out to San Antonio. They took good care of me. I know they were dealing with probably worse things, but the staff was really, really well to me. And then to walk properly, I think it was another 3 or 4 days, at most maybe a week, just to walk under my own power. So that shifted me into, look, I know you want to look better and lose weight, but you can't do it with just lifting weights right now. Right. You got to change something up. You got to start something that you can handle, you know? So then I start by just saying, look, you know, I know how energy in and energy out works. You know, if I eat more and I don't move my body, I'm going to gain weight. If I eat less and move my body, I'm going to be in a deficit. And that's literally the mantra that I had in my head for the next like 6 months to a year. And you know, and my family, like I said, super supportive. And, you know, it was kind of one of those things where it's like, I had never seen that side of life. I had never seen the really fit or me feeling really confident about how I look. I never really saw that side of life. I only got bursts of it because when I did good catching, you know, or played a really good game, I had that burst of confidence, but it wouldn't last long. Right. I'm talking about like real raw confidence, and I wanted that for once. And so I just basically watched what I was eating a little bit more. Didn't do anything too restrictive. It's not advised anyway. Right. But just like I said, watched a little bit more what I was eating, and then just made sure while I was coaching a travel ball team at the time, before practices started, I would run poles. So I'd run poles to get like my jog in. Sorry about that.
You're good. Punch the shit out of the boom.
It's like, dude, I'm like, I vary with my hands when I talk. So
you're good.
But so anyway, so before I would be in charge of the practices, I'd run poles. And it was a smaller field, so I'm not running on a high school or college field. It was a pony field. So I'm like, cool, this is manageable. I can do 5 or 6 poles before I start practice, you know, get a little rush going before I coach the kids. And from there, I think after the 2-month mark, one of my former coaches was like, "Hey, are you slimming down a little bit?" And I'm like, "You know what? I'm trying something different. I'm just keeping it simple, and see where it takes me." And he's like, "All right." He's like, "I can see it. You're slimming down a little bit." And that was the first time where it was like, okay, I'm just going to keep going with it, right? Because I at least wanted to give myself 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, and then the people are telling you like there's a result. The results are coming.
Right, right. And again, how often are we so short-term goal-oriented that we say, all right, I want to lose weight, but then after a month, we're like, it ain't working. And it's like, you got to give yourself minimum 2 months. That's what I would say, 60 days for you to see some slight change, and other people will notice it first before you do. And then that's 2-3 months in. So basically, in total, I went from about 240 to 185, almost dropped down to 180.
Yeah.
And that was just with doing a little bit of cardio throughout the week, running and watching what I was eating. And then it had gotten to a point, because then I kind of was starting to go back the other way of being too skinny. Right. Because I could tell, because I still had an arm, I could still throw the ball hard and play pretty well, but everything was starting to hurt a little bit more. I didn't have the supportive muscle tissue to play consistently. So once I got down to 180, I was like, okay, cool, I'm skinny, but I still don't really have that confidence.
You went from one extreme to the other extreme.
Right, exactly, which most people do if they're one way for a good amount of their life, a long period of their life. But I maintained around 190, but again, I still didn't have really that much muscle. I was just skinny. Yeah. But something that I was really proud of along the way in my journey was my sister at the time. She just got diagnosed with diabetes. And, we had a couple family members pass away from it. And at the time, I was maybe 5 or 6 months into my journey of just kind of being a little more fit and more mindful, changing my lifestyle. Yeah. But I had to come down hard on her because we saw what it did to our family members. Right. And I told her, I said, you have a reference, you have a mirror to look at, and even if you didn't, you got to understand where you're headed. You're not headed in a good direction, And so fast forward to today, I think she's lost over 80 or 90 pounds. Wow. And the other day she was like, she's like, if you didn't give me that straight up younger brother looking out for me kind of with my health, the way that the way that you were, she's like, I don't know what I would have done. I probably would have been on the same track. Right. Probably would have been heavier, but Jesus.
No, you're good, man. No, it's funny you mentioned diabetes because my dad for a long time was diabetic. He a lot of bad eating habits and stuff, and I mean he lived a long enough life. I guess he passed away and he was like 67, 68. He passed away in 2017. And
sorry
so no, you're good, man. And so diabetes, I understand what you're talking about because it has a lot to do with like the food you eat and all that, but it's like an insulin thing, right? And like I know like right now my wife, she's doing a lot of like fasting, and she talks about like her insulin stuff. She's like I don't want to spike, I don't want to get my insulin going or whatever. I don't understand it the way she understands it, right? But like I understand what you're saying, man. Like especially like with brothers and sisters, you have to give each other that tough love, and in order for like either side to like open their eyes.
Right, yeah. And it comes down to like, dude, I want to see you around for the next 30, 40 years.
Yeah, definitely.
And we'll talk about it still to this day about like, I mean, she turned it around, and I honestly like, cuz if I'm really going to be honest, like we come from a family that loves our comfort zone. Right. As I know most people do with certain things, but we love just kind of staying in that same bubble. And it was kind of like, in a way, realizing and reflecting on it now, I'm so happy that it kind of started with me, and I kind of took my shit a little more serious with my health and with my fitness, that it kind of resonated with a few other people. Yeah. But I didn't do it with the intent of like, oh, okay, I want to turn my whole family around. I did it for me. Yeah. In that way of like, I've never seen this side of life. Yeah. I fluctuated, but I've always been the chubby, acne on the face, it's kind of like not the best looking or the most fit. Yeah. I always worked hard, but again, I didn't have any knowledge with that stuff.
Yeah.
And so sitting here and saying like, yo, like I'm an asthmatic technically, and I know I would use that as a crutch a lot too, but I'd still do my work. I'd still run. I wouldn't use it as an excuse. But now that I'm 26, running for a mile straight without stopping, that's something that the younger me would have been like, dude, you're never going to do that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, quit tripping. You know, that's never going to happen. But yeah, so when I stayed at 190 skinny for like, I would say another year and a half. And then I had reached out, like shout out to my friends Devin and Raquel. So they're a few friends I had met from high school that I'd known, and we didn't talk for years. But one day I reached out to Devin and I was like, yo, like not necessarily yet for the fitness, but I knew he boxed. Yeah. And from the videos I saw, it looked like he boxed pretty well. And I said, look, something I've always wanted to learn is just the basics of boxing. You know, don't overwhelm me with like 7 combinations. Just tell me 3 or 4 punches, how to throw them properly, and I'll learn that. Yeah. And he was ecstatic. He was like, yeah, dude. He's like, let me know when you're free and we can learn the basics. And I did that for about a month and a half. But he still checks up on me. He's like, how's your jab? How's your hook? How's your footwork? I'm like, yeah, I'm still trying to practice it. I know it took a little bit off for the holidays. Yeah. Still trying to practice it. And then I had hit him up for the physical training, the weightlifting and everything. Yeah. Yeah.
I think boxing is cool. There's a lot of I think there's a lot of carryover to baseball. I know I've said on the podcast before, like if you just wail away at the heavy bag, like it's a lot of like core roads. If you do it properly, of course, like it's a lot of core power, rotational strength, right? Getting into a heavy bag, you know, and that's just going at it without any technique, you know. So if you're doing it with a lot of technique and just like focusing on proper movement, basically, like you get those motor patterns and all that. The carryover into baseball, it's a seamless carryover, right? You know, and so do you think that has carried over well for you now that you're playing again?
Well, what's crazy, I think it did help in aspects of like the footwork, like because I feel like my feet are the lightest they've ever been. Yeah. With athletic movement, but what's crazy is that I was thinking about it the other day. It was like, you know, we were doing this drill, we were hitting the bag, and he was telling me his tempo, what he would like me to do. So 1-1-2, 2-1-2, any combination that he was throwing, but he was calling out the tempo, he was calling out the rhythm. And the second that we said, okay, don't listen to me, go on your own tempo, go on your own rhythm, everything, like every strike felt way better. Right. Everything with my footwork, with how I threw my punches felt so much better because I'm on my rhythm, on my tempo, not somebody else's. Right. And what I was
somebody else's tempo, you have to react to it.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And that's why when I was thinking about it the other day, I was like, that transitioned so well into the life choices that I've made, because it was very much like for the longest time, I was living on somebody else's tempo, somebody else's rhythm, I was so focused on being the right person instead of just being real. Right. And I feel like a lot of us fall into that trap, whether it's with a group or whether it's one person. And like I said, when I thought about the other day, it transitioned beautifully into like I said, the life choices that I've made the past year or so. Yeah.
Nice. And so with all the stuff and all your changes that you've been doing, you've we kind of like teased it earlier. You started pretty much your own business, right? In the world of baseball, you know, as essentially a coach. But would you label yourself a coach or a trainer or so? Basically, all right. Let's talk about JRG training. Like, what do you let the world know?
Yeah. So again, this was another wholesome story. How it started is I was a couple months before I turned 25. I think it was like October, November. I was really starting to build a good reputation with like the 10U and 11U team that we had at the time. You know, they liked the way I coached. I liked the way they played. And I also love the parents. Parents are a big part of it too. If not most, all of the parents were really cool with me. And they love the way that I coach their kids. So, like I said, that October, November, was when, I can't remember. Yeah, it was, okay, so it was David. So the dad of the shortstop at the time who I was coaching, you know, if he was by the fence, because he grew up playing basketball. He didn't know much about the sport of baseball, but we still had, like I said, with you and I or with anybody, I'll have good life conversations with. And that's how we bonded. That's how we got close, is through life conversations.
Yeah.
So one night after I was done conditioning the 11U team, you know, he pulled me over to the side and he was like, I've never seen that, bro. Like from any sport, like basketball, football, or like baseball. He's like, I never seen what you just did. And I was like, what do you mean? What did I just do? I'm coaching. And he's like, you ran those kids into the ground as if you were a college, like Division I coach. Like the way you condition them, he's like, that's how I used to condition.
Right.
But then right after you got down on a knee at their level and said, look, this is what I expect from you. And I expect certain things from each and every one of you. And then I expect things as a team on how we take the field and how we present ourselves. And he was like, dude, that's something that's hard to find, because you'll get a lot of coaches who are just I'm going to tell you what to do. And then like, if you ask me questions, I'll kind of be annoyed about it, or just listen to what I have to say. Right. Kind of like the authority thing. Yeah. Which I understand, be respectful. But sometimes if you're just telling them what to do all the time, like, you know, they're going to get tired of it. And so that was the first time where I was like, I mean, I appreciate it, but it's kind of like, this is how I coach. Yeah. This is how I've gotten more comfortable with the teams and everything. And he's like, no, dude, I think that's why the kids resonate so well with you, is because you can put them into the ground, but at the same time, you're picking them back up and you're saying, look, this part of your game is really good. And I love that. Yeah. But this part of your game needs work. And that's what I'm here. I'm here for both. To maintain where you're at a high level, or the aspects of the game that you're really good at. But I'm also here to build up those other parts that aren't so good. And then again, going back to another parent who had told me the same thing not too long after. And then around my birthday, when I turned 25, a little over a year ago, was when I was like, okay, maybe it could be something. But again, you don't think much about it, because it's kind of like, okay, whatever, I'll look into it, but it's not something that you really take seriously. And then as I start doing a little bit more private coaching on the side, I noticed that my kids, in a short amount of time, they pick up things really quickly, whether they're the most talented on the field or not so much, but they get better at their game in a short amount of time. Yeah. And from then on out, I started diving in more into the private coaching, and, you know, with catchers, starting out obviously with catchers, and then some hitting. But then it got to a point of like, okay, well, I pretty much have anywhere from 7 to 10 kids, and I want to pursue this full time, because I'm 20. Yeah, I just turned 25. Like when I was thinking about it, right? I just turned 25. You know, I don't have a family. I don't have any like mortgage, any big payment, right? I don't have any huge stress on my mind right now. So why not just pull the trigger and go for it?
You can focus on building something.
Right. And focus most of my energy, if not all, on building it. And then from I would say March or April of this past year up until now, it's just been nothing but full-time private coaching.
Yeah. And then I think maybe people come, the kids and the parents, they keep coming back to you, because, you know, what you're teaching, you know, it resonates with them, right? Like it's just, it's different. Like in a way, like I said earlier, catchers are men of the people. Right. And so that leadership quality is obviously there. And so like these things are gonna, what you're preaching to them, they're gonna stick with them for life, right? And so like I guess my next question would be like, what are some of the philosophies that you teach your players, and some of the philosophies that you teach them that these things have to carry over into the real world?
Yeah, I mean, and like that's a great question too, because once the lessons are done about baseball, if I have time, I'm talking to the parents and the kids about certain life lessons that I didn't make the right decision at the time, or maybe I did, but either way I learned from it. And so it depends on who I'm coaching, because obviously the life advice that I give an 11, 12, or 13-year-old is going to be different than the 17 and 18-year-old.
Right.
It's like kind of two different worlds almost, you know?
Yeah.
So I think one of the main things that I tell my younger catchers is, you know, just with the vocal part, because I know they're still so scared, just practice being more assertive and vocal in a way around the house.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing big time that I see a problem is like they're afraid. They don't, and I get it. They're so young, dude. They can't process the situations that are going on, especially in a game.
Yeah.
It's very like catch the ball, block the ball, throw somebody out.
You're right. Especially in today's world, like we hit the youngsters, like they have a lot more distractions with social media and screen time and all that stuff. So like, so they're not really forced into these kinds of situations, you know, which is why I feel like it's important to keep your kids and stuff, you know, keep your kids, especially with like with what you're providing, you know, training, like the physical aspect, but also like the mental training, like, cause you're providing like that huge mentorship, you know, that maybe like the father figure probably doesn't have those qualities, you know, but like they still want their kids to have that, you know?
Yeah. And that's, like I said, it's just based on the age that I'm coaching at the time. And then, like I said, my catchers are really good, especially some of my younger ones, at the not complaining rule. Like they just already know, like they're here to work, they're here to get better. And the second that I start, you know, hey, I complain here too because something hurt or something was tweaked or whatever, right? You're getting tired, I understand. But it's, you know, again, if I keep hearing it, you know, but like I said, the catchers who I have, they've adopted that philosophy, whether it was just with me or that's their demeanor already, and then we just mesh well together. They're very good at just not complaining, taking the hits, and learning from what I have to say. Yeah. And also too, another thing is like I told you earlier, I've only gotten better with age. And it's kind of like, yeah, my catching game was okay, it was decent, you know, nothing, like I said, stand out, right? But I think from that 20, 21-year-old year up until now, it has been kind of like, no, like I'm legit. Like, you know, yeah, you can say, you know, it's like kind of like, oh yeah, you know, it sounds a little like, oh yeah, say you're legit or you're the shit, but it's kind of like, it's the work that I've put in. I'm not just sitting here and saying like, no, like just I am the shit. It's like, no, I'm legit. I know I have a talent for the position, and it's through the work that I've put in. Especially, I didn't slow down when I hit 21, 22. I wanted to ramp it up. And then I wanted to ramp it up even more at 24, 25, 26 years old from, you know, how long I can do this, you know? Yeah. So.
No, definitely. And so it's funny. One of the, I know there's a lot of challenges that come up with you know, coaching your players and all that with the kids. You have to like learn how to read their body language and all that stuff. But like as with Major League Baseball, for example, like it's getting very forward thinking, I guess. And obviously, like it's been announced recently, like the robo umps are coming, right? They're all coming to AAA. They're all going to be in all the AAA parks.
Okay.
So with the robo umps on their way, like what challenges do you foresee with the robo umps and the training that like you're providing? Because, you know, like earlier we had talked about like the art of being a catcher, what it is, you know, framing and all that. And so once they get to the highest level, all that kind of goes away. So what challenges do you maybe foresee moving forward?
I think the biggest thing that I see is you take away the personality from the position, because who else is really talking to the umpire or trying to, or in that close proximity to the umpire other than the hitter?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like so for example, even when I was younger or didn't have as much confidence, when I would step on the field and I knew I was catching, again, that little burst of confidence would come up, and my personality would kind of shine a little bit. And I thought about it in the way of like, I got to help out my pitchers any way I can. So if I can get my personality going and sweet talk the umpire and maybe get a few inches off the plate, whether it's high, inside, or outside, I'm going to do it. And I've had great conversations and relationships with umpires throughout the years. Yeah. And it's kind of like, if you have a robot umpire, it's kind of like, okay, well, now I feel like the position is a little more bland, because again, we got to do a bunch of stuff. We got to be athletic. We got to be very mindful and aware of what's going on the field and with our teammates. But a big part of it too is the conversations I have with the guy behind me.
Right.
And that's kind of the first thing that comes to my mind, is that there's a little bit of personality that's taken out of it.
Right.
So,
yeah, no, I could definitely see all that, man. Like it's I think it's going to be very challenging. There's going to be a lot of adaptation once it's like, I mean, obviously, you know, there's some of the minor leaguers are already experiencing all that. Like to my understanding, like the challenge system that's going to be there. So like, I think there's the room for growth with that. But I think maybe like a challenge for you, for example, would be like when as a catcher, like signal to your pitcher, like, yo, challenge this shit, challenge the fucking strike, like challenge it. Because I think it's only like the hitter and the pitcher that can challenge all that stuff. So it's kind of, it's a little wonky in a way.
yeah, see, like with that new stuff that's coming out, like I told you, I haven't checked in the past 2 seasons, so I don't know what's going on with all that.
And it takes away from the game, dude, because like bad calls, like we've said it here before, like bad calls are part of the game. It's like, as a fan, like, as you know, you're watching the game and like the umpire blows a fucking call and you're like that's fucking horseshit, Blue. Like you invest more of yourself into watching the game and all that, you know. So I think like the whole robo-ump, like it's gonna take away so much. Yeah, so much from a lot of people, dude. The catchers, hitters, everybody, man. Everybody's gonna be affected, and it kind of sucks. Because like we've all grown up. Everybody listening to this, like we've all grown up, like the super traditional form of baseball, and like little by little we've seen it transition. Like now we're getting the bigger bases and all that crap.
And I think that's just like, again, like anything that translates into a game, you can translate it into life. It's like, I don't want everything perfect. I don't want everything spot on. I want mistakes. I want someone to make a mistake to me, and I want to make a mistake to someone else, because that's how I'm going to get better. Yeah. And I don't want this weird illusion of perfection.
Yeah. And that's what makes life dope, dude, is like life isn't perfect, and that's what's dope about it. You know, of course, like, maybe like some aspects of life you want it to be like all super shiny and dope and perfect and all that. But for the most part, like, then life would just be boring, man. Like, we're just here, just living, just taking up space.
There wouldn't be really much of a challenge, to be honest.
Exactly. So, you know, and I think a lot of it just boils down to like what's the challenge? What's the next challenge? What's the next challenge? You know, just a kind of a lighthearted question. Who's gonna be dusting off home plate?
Who's gonna be dusting off? Okay, so what do they like? What do they mean by like?
Oh, like who's gonna dust off home plate? Like, once the robo umps are here.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. Honestly, I mean, I'll do it, but if they give me like a dope brush that the umpires use, like, I think that'd be pretty cool. Like, I wouldn't. I don't want to keep using my glove. Like, you know, if you give me a legit brush, like, I'm down to do it. Like,
just like fuck it out, just do it.
I'll be like,
quick.
cool. If I got a cool, that's actually a cool memento that I have in like a box somewhere. Is that I built a relationship with an umpire for like a whole year back when I was like 14, 15 years old, and he was leaving out of state. He was moving. He was going, I think, back east where he was from, because he'd been in California for close to a decade. And he said, "Hey, you're one of the best young catchers I've ever seen. Like, not only that, you're one of the best personalities who I've ever worked with. Right. And you're so young, dude." And, you know, I was like, no, it's just, you know, I appreciate it. I'm just playing my game, and you have a great strike zone, and you're very friendly. And he left me with the brush that he used. And so I have it like in a box somewhere. And I was like, it's one of the best umpires that I ever worked with. Yeah. So
you got to put that in your frame, man.
Oh, dude,
put
that
in your frame,
because I think he actually...
That's a unique gift. I've never heard of that. Yeah.
I think he actually went back east to umpire single A and double A.
Oh, okay.
I think, if I remember correctly, he wasn't going back just to kind of like retire. Right. I think he was going back because I don't know how the umpire union works. I really don't. But I think he was getting like almost like his version of a tryout, where if he did good in like a tournament, then they would look at him for like, okay, some major league organization, the lower end, you know? Yeah. So,
yeah, dude, that's pretty cool. But like obviously, for like us and the world that we live in, which is, you know, the universe of baseball, like some of the best things that we develop is relationships, right? We develop relationships for you, like, especially that's a unique one. Like, developed a relationship with the umpire, gave you the brush and stuff. You know, like our teammates, like they become some of our best friends, and some of our, you know, some of our best and worst memories come through baseball, you know, like.
Yeah. And then also too, before I forget, shout out to the Fontana Marlins and the Sun Devils. They've actually been following me and my training page like from the beginning. So I just wanted, I think they were the first two like teams to actually kind of like follow some of my stuff. I'm just trying to remember some of the shout outs that I wanted to, but no, they've been following me for a while. And I have have an old high school teammate who plays on the Sun Devils that he's always been cool with me. So yeah, saw him today.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys played each other today.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Tropic
Yeah.
Sun Devils. You guys lost by a big margin.
Yeah, we got into it a little bit before this, but yeah, it happens.
It happens, man. You can't win them all, dude.
Yeah.
And so like with the relationships that you've built throughout everything that we've talked about in your journey and all that, obviously there's been folks that have helped you transition into what you're doing now, like so you've had a lot of support. So like talk about some of the people that have helped you build what you've built and supported you throughout your what you're building.
Yeah, no, I'd love to, because the Rancho Fontana community, especially around the Little Leagues and travel ball, like some of the best families I've ever met, hands down, and going back, so if we're going to rewind a little bit, it was kind of like how we ended up in Fontana was kind of like probably one of the most stressful situations you could be in.
Yeah.
So at the time I was still just starting out the private sessions, and one morning, I think my mom had said, like, oh, hey, like, I want to talk to you and your sisters. And I was like, okay, usually you know how it is, like, with that tone, something's not well. So, she basically lays out, like, look, we got 2 months, but we got to move out, life happens. And I guess it wouldn't have freaked us out as much if the market was okay. But you know how it is, and especially for a year ago, how bad it was.
Right.
Even still right now, So yeah, a month goes by and still no luck, and still trying to do my lessons. And honestly, it provided a good distraction for me, because what was I thinking about when I wasn't coaching privately or thinking about my fitness and all that stuff? It was, okay, well, are we actually not going to have a house, or like what's the situation? It's
you go into survival mode,
right? It's that's exactly how it felt, because it was just looming over us. It was heavy, so it was, I would say, like 2 to 3 weeks before the actual deadline, where we just had to get up and get out, was when I had reached out to a mom who I'd coached her sons for a little bit. But what's crazy is her name's Tanya. It's the Tapia family, and Tanya was the very first parent to say, like, hey, why don't you do something? I know we had talked about David earlier about like the coaching style, but like a month or two before, Tanya was like, look, you have a great personality. You're a great coach. They resonate well with you. Why don't you just give it a shot? And we had talked about it a few times before, but we follow each other on Instagram, and we had talked not too long ago, and she was like, it's awesome what you've done, from when we were just talking about it on the stands or the sidelines, to what you have now. But anyway, I reached out to her, and she had a friend, Gabby, who's a realtor in the area. And I said, look, something's better than nothing at this point.
Right.
We're starting to sweat. We're starting to freak out, like pretty bad. So I get into contact with her after I'm done coaching a private session. I'm driving home, and I call Gabby, and super friendly, super talkative, but everybody loves her. That's just how she is. And we start to kind of get to know each other, like warm up to each other. And it turns out her son was on the team that I was actually helping out over at Vineyard. So immediately there's that bridge that kind of, connected us in a way. And she was automatically even more warmed up to me.
Yeah.
She's like, oh my God, like my son Adrian loves playing baseball. He loves the team that he's on, great family, great teammates. And I said, oh yeah, I just started working with them around Vineyard, trying to get private sessions in. And so she goes, hey, like if you guys are ready, like you and your mom's boyfriend could come up and check out the house. And I'm like, dude, this is farther than I've gotten in my last 4 or 5 attempts. Like, thank you so much. I really appreciate that gesture. And an hour or so later, we go up together, and we meet her at the property. And again, super humble, super sweet. And we're about 15, 20 minutes into the tour. She's telling us the basic layout, the yard, like square footage, all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And then she goes, yeah, so if you guys want, like, you guys can just move in.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, well, I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah.
no, did you actually, like, is that what you said? And she was like, no, yeah, if you guys are, if this works out for you guys, you can move in. 3 days before she was going to post it on, what are those, like, those real estate websites? What is it, like Zillow?
Zillow, yeah.
Zillow, yeah. So she was basically 3 days away from posting it and just
Mm-hmm.
letting it be like, okay, whoever puts in the
Right.
best bid can take the house. And she just was like, look, you've told me your situation.
Mm-hmm.
You and your family seem great. So, like, she felt more comfortable giving it to someone who she felt a little bit warmer about, especially like being around this community and
Right.
coaching this community, than kind of just letting it go to whoever.
Yeah.
And so that's where I really was like, yo, like, you can't make this stuff up, because I barely met you today, but because you're just trying to be so helpful in your community, you don't know what you've done for me and my family,
Right.
you know? So that was pretty trippy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, it's a beautiful thing, man, when the community can come together, you know. And I know we got our community here
Mhm.
in the
Yeah.
Sunday leagues, man.
Great community.
Definitely, dude. And like, shout out to everybody that you know, supports the show.
Mhm.
I feel like it's built up little by little,
Mhm.
you know, brick by brick type of thing. And and it really trips me out, man, because like, I know today somebody walked up to me earlier. I was at one of the games, and the dude's name is Alex. He introduced himself. He's, I want to say he's the head coach of the Yankees. I know he plays on the Yankees. I'm not sure if he's the head coach. But he was like, hey, you guys do the podcast, right? I'm like, oh, and so kind of like I had to step back for a second, just for a second, because it kind of caught me off guard, because I was in media mode, dude. I was like
Right.
recording videos and shit.
Yeah, you were in it.
Yeah, dude. So like, the biggest thing is like the building the community is important, you know, and like for you, you're still building your community, you
Right.
know, like it's not at its peak yet,
Right.
you know, it will be, and so like, with building your community, you've come across like different families, you know. So they helped you, with, you know, for a spot to move into. Was it the I'm kind of losing my train of thought.
you're good.
I have the notes written down right here. The Vineyard community families that like helped support you and all that,
Right.
and also like for the merch that you guys have that you've created, you know.
Oh, yeah. So with that family, it was
Yeah.
actually another little bit of a wholesome story of, so back again when I was coaching, coaching the travel ball program at the time. There's a kid who I met, Jeremy, and first impression was, dude, he's just a gamer. He's not the biggest, tallest, or strongest, but he's athletic. And the work ethic that I saw him put day in and day out resonated well with me. And I think that's why, you know, we resonated so well when I coached his team, practices or games. But so little going back to that wholesome story, it's like, okay, so one day when I was packing up my gear, ready to go home, usually the practices were like 4:30 to 8:30. And at the time I was working a job earlier, so I was working 12 to 14 hours, but just knowing that it would pay off.
Yeah.
Right. Just with that mindset, I didn't care. I knew it was going to pay off in the long run. And so this guy comes up to me, and I didn't know it was his dad. He just comes up to me and he's like, "Hey, coach." And I was like, "Oh, hey, sir, how you doing?" And he goes, "Dude, my son loves coming out here and seeing you on the field." He was like, he was so kind of like bummed out. I had missed a practice a couple weeks before. And he's like, dude, he was honestly bummed out.
Right.
Because he loves your style, and he loves, you know, he just loves the way that you coach and resonate with him and the other kids. Right.
Yeah.
So he comes up to me, shakes my hand, and he's like, no, he's like, keep it up. He's like, you're doing something right. You know, you're just doing something right. Fast forward almost a year later, I want to say. I do a lot of my lessons at Day Creek and like Rancho Summit, pretty local, right? I don't have to drive far.
Yeah.
Which is a blessing too. But so I see him one morning at Day Creek, and I'm like, Jeremy? And he's like, oh, what's up, coach? And I didn't know his dad's name at the time, but you know, it was Steve. And we were talking, and he's like, yeah, he's like, we remember you. He's like, how you doing? I was like, dude, I'm doing well. Really hitting it hard with the private coaching now, just kind of saying screw it and seeing where it goes.
Yeah.
And he goes, you know what's funny? He's like, my wife was right the whole time, because his mom had come out to watch a couple practices, and his mom had come out and said, like, after the practices, I think they had talked about it back home one night,
Right.
and they said, why doesn't Coach Junior like do his own thing, like coach privately?
Yeah.
And she was saying that 2 to 3 months before I had even really had like my first full week of private lessons.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's like, dude, we're so happy that you decided to take it full time. He's like, you know, it seems like you're doing well. And like I said, we always resonated well with you, and Jeremy also did with, you know, the time over at the academy that you were coaching at. And so turns out like we're talking, like I coached him for like a month or so, right? And Steve's a great guy. We had great conversations. Something comes up about merchandise, because I threw it out there. I said, you know, it would be cool one day, like just merchandise.
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, well, you know what's funny? My daughter does that. So just like ask her. I was like, oh, okay, well, that was fast.
Yeah.
And so it literally was like, I told him, I said, yeah, one day maybe. But he goes, well, my daughter does that. Like, hit her up. Like, we'll hook you up, dude.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So then another 2 months go by, and you know, I'm like kind of still debating on it. Maybe I want to, maybe I don't. And then all of a sudden I call him one day after a lesson. I said, look, there's local teams that actually want me to coach their catchers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, again, another blessing. You know, I'm super grateful for that. And he's like, dude, that's awesome. He's like, you're starting to build more and more momentum.
Yeah.
And so then one day when I coached Jeremy, I have him on Wednesdays. I'm coaching him. I'm about to coach him. And Jeremy comes walking up wearing the JRG Dry Fit shirt.
Oh, shit.
And it took me a second, because I'm like, yo, nice shirt. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, nice shirt. And I was like, okay, hold on. And then I see that his dad comes up with my shirt.
Right.
And I was like, dude, no way. He's like, you guys are awesome. Like that was such a cool feeling. Like, I would love to replay that feeling over and over again, because like I said, just like that, he got off the phone. He told me he got off the phone when I was done telling him, like, hey, local teams want me to coach their catchers.
Yeah.
And he said, look, we got to make it happen for this guy.
Yeah.
And literally from shirts to, so now we have shirts, polos, hats, and sweaters. And all within a span of like maybe 2 or 3 months. And like I said, a huge shout out to the Mejia family, because they've been one of my biggest supporters in the community of like, dude, keep doing your thing, keep building, because, you know, you're something special, at least when it comes to the coaching community around here.
Yeah.
So really appreciate them and all their work that they've done for me.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. And, you know, shout out to the Mejia family, and you know, to Steve. I mean, he just took the initiative and just like, told his daughter, like, make this shirt. Make the shirt so I can roll it with it or whatever.
Pretty much. Yeah, that's how it happened.
So, I mean, everything that we've talked about so far, right? Like we all the challenges you've gone through life. We've talked about food and all that shit.
And that's the thing too, is that we've gone through kind of some of the easier challenges. Like the thing is like reflecting back on a certain period of my life, it's like, no, there was a patch where it was pretty rough, and it was kind of like one of those things where I was just in my own constant cycle of like nothing's going well given the environment and situation that I'm in. Yeah. But no, yeah, like I said, it's been, like I said, the past couple of years have been wholesome. Yeah. But yeah, so
definitely, dude. And like I've seen, like I can tell that you've grown a lot. Obviously, I haven't known you as long as, probably would have been cooler to know you a lot longer, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe
who you ask, yeah.
Yeah, but so like all these challenges have kind of brought you to like one focal point where you're at right now. So you're ready to take on a new challenge. You know, we've on the side, like in private, we've been talking about it, like bouncing ideas that you've considered, right? You know, ask for my thoughts on and stuff, and so you're ready to hop into I guess the content game.
Yeah. So I mean, and that ties in pretty well with some of the life coaching that I eventually want to do. So I think it was maybe like a month or two ago. Again, just throwing it out there in the wind, just saying, you know. And again, I have to give you guys a lot of credit too, because again, going back to the community you guys have built around this podcast, and back when I saw Fitz make Nosebleed Baseball, you know, it was kind of like one of those things where it's like, again, I could never do that. I could never do video. I could never do audio. Again, just placing myself in a box of like, you're not gonna be that guy.
Yeah.
Well, about, like I say, like a month and a half ago, I just said, look, you know, the people who I talk to about certain life issues and life development or personal character development, whatever you call it, just being better as you get older. I have a good community that I can build off of, and a lot of experience in that. I mean, I'm only 26, but so like, for example, the friend who I had on, he's, I want to say almost twice my age, but one of the greatest things I've heard in a while was him say like, look, dude, I've been through so much. He's been through way worse things than I have, or what most people go through, just given the way he grew up.
Yeah.
But he said, dude, from seeing you from 18 years old, how you were, how you looked, how you carried yourself, what you were going through, to, like I said, the 26-year-old you that I'm seeing right now, he's like, dude, you're one of my heroes.
Yeah.
And that's where it was kind of like, you know, it struck a little deeper than it normally would have, because like I told you, I don't stop to pat myself on the back. I just keep going.
Right.
I'm kind of like, cool, another day.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, and you actually helped me with the name. So I'm doing a video interview style, but eventually I want to make it into a podcast, save the audio files, and just put it up on Spotify or wherever people listen to their podcasts or their music. And it's going to be called The Honest Archetype. And like I said, I was really going back and forth with 3 or 4 names that I was trying to come up with that resonated with me. And like I said, my lifestyle the past 3-4 years. And, you know, you really helped me pick that out, because I think what the Honest Archetype is supposed to stand for is like the video interview and the podcast is that, look, you're not going to be one style of person. You're not going to be always a bad person. You're not always going to be a negative person. I mean, yes, there are assholes in the community. I get it. But most people fluctuate between, okay, for a certain period of my life, I was pretty negative, or I was pretty, you know, just for lack of a better word, I was an asshole to the people around me or my friends. And then you go through this phase of like, you know, you have this like, okay, well, I'm a little less selfless, and I'm actually putting my friends and family in a way first, or not thinking always about just what's best for me. You know, because like I said, we fluctuate so much. And that's like how I told you, we're the villain, the snitch, the coward, the hero. We just fluctuate like that. That's just how it is, right? We're not always going to be just one thing. And that resonated so well with me, reflecting on, again, the 15-year-old to 26-year-old, this 10-year gap of how I've changed so much, and the habits I've created and the habits I've dropped. Yeah. And there's so much more. I could have like a 3 to 4 hour conversation of just that 10-year gap. Right. But, you know, again, it's not necessarily the time and place. Like I said, we've touched on it, but not yet to get into detail about it. And that's why I'm kind of building the Honest Archetype, because the interview that I had last night with the family friend was, dude, it was raw. Like, it was some real tough stuff. Like I said, he opened up to me about some things that he didn't open up to his family with, or to his friends, or anybody. And that's what I want it to be about, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's going to be very authentic, you know, and I think that's what a lot of people like that stuff, you know, relatability, authenticity, and all that stuff. So I myself, I'm definitely looking forward to it, man. And and you know, to be open about some stuff. Like, I know around the time that like you and I, you know, had our bro date or whatever, like all the stuff that we're talking about, like a lot of the stuff that you said, like, it was real. How can I put it? I guess you could say that like I was at a point, like, as far as like the podcast and all the shit that we're doing is concerned, like I was at a point where like I was teeter-tottering, like am I done? Or like I wasn't sure, like do I want to keep doing this shit or not? You you know, because you know, some stuff happens, you know, and it's just like you start thinking, you're like I don't know, I got some shit to think about, you know, and like I can honestly say like the conversations that we were having and stuff at the baseball game. I don't even remember what happened at this game.
Honestly, dude, like I don't even remember the game. I just remember some of our like the highlights of our conversation.
Definitely,
you know?
dude. And so like you know, I can honestly say that I was definitely inspired to just like continue forward. You know, because the point is it's like you're gonna get this challenge, you're gonna get challenged with this, you're gonna get challenged with that. You know, and I think the main focus is like just keep pushing forward, man. Like one foot in front of the other, regardless of what's getting thrown at you. Because I think at the end of the day, like what a lot of people can respect is somebody's consistency, right? Consistency, and like it's kind of cliche, like to reference a movie, but in the movie, it's one of the last, like when Rocky's already retired. I think it's Rocky 6 or Rocky 7.
I think it's one of those. It's one of those.
It's Balboa, whichever one's Balboa, when he like makes the comeback. He's like, it's how much you can keep getting hit and still keep moving forward or whatever.
Or getting back up. Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. However he said it, dude. And
but it's like, I mean, with cliches, it's like how many people throw it around, but like when you look at their lifestyle, they don't actually take it serious. Like they throw it around at other people, but they never actually look at how they're living their life. Yeah. And one of the big things that I think I was talking to you about at that game was I honestly decided to drop all the labels, drop all the identities that either people had put on me or like I put on, like through thinking, like just, you know, the labels that I put on myself. And it was like a clean slate. I just, at 24, 25 years old, I was like, look, I'm going to try to be a different person. Not a drastic change, obviously, because again, I was thinking short term, but it was like, okay, if I could just be a little bit better in 6 months, I'll just keep going. But it happened in 3 months. So I was more ecstatic of like, okay, well, I am a little bit better than I was 3 months ago. So now I want to keep going. You know, it's kind of like when you start at the gym and when you really start to get into that routine, it's like, now I got to go. You know, I prefer to go now, you know. So
and like your next challenge is going to be like when you hit some sort of plateau. That's where you're going to really see like what you're made of as far as like the current challenge is concerned, right? You know, but as far as the show is concerned, like earlier you were talking about Coach McGee. Is he somebody that you're considering to have on?
Yeah, I think so. I think I honestly, again, going back to, you know, the Instagram post about the food, how I was surprised how many people got back to me. Yeah. It was one of those things where I had reached out and I said, look, I'm starting like a video interview. If you want to come on and talk to me for like 45 minutes or an hour, like you're more than welcome to. And set in stone, I already have 7 people. Nice. And it was like I was thinking 2 to 5 at best. Yeah. And it was kind of like, but for sure I was thinking 2 or 3, and then okay, well, who do I ask? But yeah, it's set in stone pretty much in the schedule. It's like 6 or 7, and then already a couple maybe. So it's closer to 10. Yeah. And I barely filmed my first episode yesterday, last night. Yeah. You know, so it's kind of like, again, going back to the community, I wasn't expecting that to happen.
And I think that it has a lot, it says a lot about who you are and what those around you think about you, right? So like, you know, you talk to them about like, yo, I want to do this and this and this, and it's a positive thing, you know. Like when it's some shit that's negative and selfish, people are like, whatever, dude, like go do whatever you're gonna do.
Just do your thing.
Yeah, but obviously it's not that way, you know. It's not coming across that way by any means. Is there anybody that you have your eyes focused on? Like, I have to have this person on. Like the white, I guess we call it the white whale. So we've called the white whale before.
Well, for a time, you could have called me that. There's a phase in my life where I think, that was pretty much how someone would describe me.
Too funny, man.
No, because I think right now it's like, okay, maybe when I, you know, sit down and reflect and actually think about that, then maybe. But honestly, dude, the first 6, 7 people, like I said, have scheduled are pretty interesting. Like, for example, so I'm going to have John Lane on next in a couple weeks. And, you know, he was super psyched. He's always kind of been like another baseball dad. You know, it's like he's at this point, he's like the community baseball dad, right?
I would say so. I mean, and like when we had him on, I think a part 2 is overdue. With him, because we talked a lot of like Sunday League ball, right? And but when we were off mic, like we were doing like cup check and like talking like before and all that stuff. Like there was a lot of shit that we talked about. That's like this is a real life shit right here, dude.
Yeah,
you know, and it's like it kind of just comes back to like people in general, like you don't know really what's going on with them, you know. And so like a lot of stuff he was talking about off the mic, it was like damn, like that's the kind of shit that a lot of people can relate to. Yeah, you know. So hopefully, like, you know, later on down the road, it's something that we can get into. But I think more for what you're gonna do. I think something like that fits more for your the content that you're gonna put out.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what we had. We had one of those live conversations after the game today. And yeah, so like I'm gonna have him on in a couple weeks. He's got to get back to me with a schedule. But the third person who I'm trying to have on, so this was pretty interesting. It was a mom I had met through Vineyard. Her name's Ashley. And, you know, without knowing any background information, where she came from, what she did, like, I would say she's one of the sweetest moms I've ever met. Yeah. Well, it turns out she was a Laker girl back when Kobe was playing. Oh, wow. And she was in a couple infomercials. And so she was like the highest level of what a dancer could reach. But what made me more interested in about her is that she straight up told me, she's like, look, that lifestyle didn't resonate with me. Like, I loved dancing. I didn't love the little bit of fame that she would get dancing for the Lakers or from being on infomercials. Like, and it was kind of like, and if you asked her, bro, like, she would straight up be like, one of the biggest achievements of my life is trying to be a good wife and being a good mom. And that's what struck me as interesting, because how many would have just been like, oh, she's probably, you know how it is, sleeping around or just chasing the fame or all this other stuff, right? But she was like, no, she's like, honestly, Junior, she's like, that didn't resonate with me. And I was like, I never would have thought of that coming from a former Laker girl dancer. Laker girl, yeah. I mean, you would assume that like a Laker girl she knows what she's getting herself into. Right, exactly. Yeah, but at the same time, like, sometimes you got to make that money, man. Like, right. You know? No, yeah, and again, and obviously some other things that we talked about with our childhoods growing up. Yeah. But that was one of the things that resonated well with me, because it was kind of like, you didn't chase what most of us would have chased. Right. You chose something a little bit different. Yeah. So I appreciated that. Definitely. So with Honest Archetype, like, how often are you, what's your intention of how often you're going to put out? I mean, honestly, like, shout out to my younger sister. She's been a trooper through this. She's the person that I would say is going to, she's always just that adventurous type. So if I say I'm doing something or I'm going somewhere, if she obviously doesn't have anything scheduled or she doesn't have anything going on, like, she's right there with me. She's like I said, we're 2-3 years apart, but it's almost like if we're twins. And she is doing the video and editing, and this is her first time editing video. Yeah. But she sees how passionate I am about, okay, well, the photography with the business, like how we did that photo shoot with my friend Natalie. She was super psyched to do it with me. And her photos came out great, and she's really only been doing that kind of photography, I want to say maybe a year. Yeah. If that. She's working on building her own website, I think this year. But she just was like, look, I know you're passionate about this, and I see how into it you are, so I want to help you out any way I can. Yeah. And she's just diving into it. And I told her, look, for right now, I'm not expecting some high quality stuff. I'm expecting, you know, just how we are. Like, you know, it's what we're working with, right? It's funny how we did the lighting was, it's like this, where there's 4 bright lights, and it's 2 direct. Right. So what we did, I was like, okay, well, maybe we could block out like 2 of the lights to make it better. So what I did is I grabbed a black electrical tape. Dude, my nerd is kicking in. Dude, I grabbed pieces of black electrical tape, and I covered it with a piece of paper, and I dimmed out the 2 front lights. Okay. So when you walk into the loft area right now, you'll look up and you'll like, there's a piece of paper blocking the lights. And actually, it turned out really well. It's movie magic. Yeah. Like I said, working with the budget that we have, you know. But anyway, going back to your question, it's basically a matter of how often my sister can edit the video. Because I don't want to overwhelm her. She's not going to edit something that's 2-3 hours long. Right. If she has the equipment for it, cool. Yeah, we'll try it. But at most, it'll be 45 to an hour. And, like I said, this is her first time editing, but like I said, she's into it, and I appreciate her for everything she's done.
Yeah.
And my family in general, super supportive with everything. And even friends, I have plenty of friends who I haven't shouted out just because it's just, it's one of those things where I'm not trying to take it for granted, but there's so many people who I know have my back right now, and they know I have theirs just from what I've built. But yeah, probably once every few weeks. If she can edit down a little bit sooner, then like I said, I want to get the interviews done. I at least want to do an interview once a month, if not twice a month.
Yeah.
So like I said, I'll have John Lane in February and probably Ashley in March. And again, with time, more equipment, better editing software, try to shoot for 2-3 times a month. Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
And definitely the title, I think, is very it's very masculine. Very masculine. It's not soft.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's not soft, dude.
It's not boyish.
It's not boyish. It's not childish. Like it doesn't sound immature. It's like it implies like we're gonna talk serious. And some serious shit that's about to be
It's not some
about.
slapdick stuff.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That I love that shit.
No, and like I told you earlier, the way that you thought about the names and how you broke it down was literally the exact same way I broke down each name that I was going through with my head.
Yeah.
And once you said, yo, Honest Archetype sounds the best for da-da-da-da, whatever reason, I was like, all right, it's sealed, because I got Boski's opinion on it. So it's set in stone now.
I appreciate that, man. Like, it means a lot, dude, for real. So yeah, man, is there anybody that you want to shout out, or before we get into our little wrap it up segment, I want to get into our sound off Sundays and all that stuff, because sometimes to get like a different opinion, like which I'm referring to your opinion. Like, I also have Ask a Catcher.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I have some Ask a Catcher.
Segment, yeah.
Let me see, and I do have I'll have 2 closing questions for you at the end. But yeah, if you want to shout out anybody before we move on.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, friends-wise, I've got a couple. I've got, like I said, my buddy Oaks. He was actually an older kid who I had coached the 17-18U team. And we just kind of bonded through, like, golfing a little bit more and hanging out. But what's different about him at his age is that he's taking work more serious than any 19, 20-year-old that I know.
Right.
Because he's playing the 15, 20-year game. How many 20-year-olds that are like, no, I'm playing this for the long haul?
Right.
What do most 20-year-olds do?
Party and drink.
Do stupid stuff. Do whatever it is.
Stupid,
it's
dumbass shit.
It's something stupid. And I'm not saying like he's like this 35-year-old, 40-year-old trapped in a 20-year-old's body. To an extent, But I've never seen a guy his age take work so seriously and play the long game. Yeah. Like I told him straight up the other day, I was like, dude, I wish I played that long game when I was your age. I'm playing it now at 25, 26 years old.
Dude, I'm playing it now at 38 years old, bro.
Yeah, still young.
I mean, it's wild. It trips me out. Like I got 12 years on you, dude. And it's like I'm learning shit from you, so it's pretty cool, man.
Appreciate it. Yeah. I mean, like I said, off the top of my head, I know I got plenty of friends and family. It's just hard to remember them all because, again, I'm at that point where it's like I see faces and I hang out, interact with people, and it's like, again, I know that they have my back, and I know that, I have theirs. There's no hesitation, really. And, again, going back to the families, especially with the rain the past couple weeks, they know that I haven't had as many lessons as I normally do.
Right.
And it's one of those things where the families will be like, without hesitation, they'll give me $30 to $40 more than what I normally charge.
Right.
They're kind of like, here, just take $100.
Right.
Because it's been raining. I know you're just this is all you do, and this is your business. This is your life source. So it's so cool to see that. And of like, it's flat. I don't ask for whatever reason. Nothing changes. I get it. It's firm, right? Mm-hmm. But to have these parents just say, hey, we know what you're doing. Yeah. Here, I hope this helps at least for this week. Again, like I said, shout out to my brother Shay. He's always been there. We've known each other 15 years now, something like that. Yeah. So, shout out to him. Shout out to everyone in the baseball, Sunday League baseball community, whether I know you or not.
Yeah. They will. They will start knowing you.
Right, yeah. But no, shout out. Keep doing your thing. But just, like I said, right now it's just hard because I've got so many. It's kind of just like, I could stay here for another 10, 15 minutes and shout out people.
Yeah, dude, for sure. I know it's the same for us. Like we could just, like with Sunday League, the podcast, we can shout out just a bazillion people, dude. It's crazy. Like, it's crazy that all the people that like we've interacted with and like conversations I've had with people privately and all that. There's a lot more into things that like the naked eye would see, you know, especially like with what you've been doing and everything you've gone through and all that stuff. Yeah, man. So, you know, hopefully everybody has enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, I hope
you
so.
know, definitely. Well, I mean, I guess we could take it a little more lighthearted. You know?
Let's do it.
I did put on Instagram and like ask a catcher.
Yeah, I like that.
Ask a catcher. You know, it's always dope that all these fucking bush leaguers, you know, like to interact, right? Like everybody likes to hear, like even if it's like I wonder sometimes if like if we even give any like everybody like the audio time that they would want. I don't, because it's a lot. There's a lot of people out there, dude. It's crazy.
No, I get you.
Yeah, and so one of the first questions is from RJ from Upland. That's one of the homies. He says, "How the fuck do your knees not fucking hurt, or do your knees even hurt?"
And again, that's a perfect question that ties back into like fitness and health.
Yeah,
I'll tell you right now, when I was heavier and when I wasn't as fit, things started to hurt more. Like the inflammation, just overall. I felt like my durability was starting to decline. And no, it's honestly like if you're not a catcher who stretches routinely and especially takes care of your lower half, because that's what you're doing all you know, for 3 hours, right? And then if you play tournaments, like there was one tournament where I caught 5 games and I didn't play for the next month because I was so drained. Yeah. But again, I was the only catcher, and you're not going to take me out of the catching position. Like, unless I'm actually dead or really injured, you're not going to move me from the plate because that's just my spot. Like, I'm the guy. So it's kind of like, but yeah, so now that everything's more of a priority of like health and fitness and I'm taking care of myself more, things aren't hurting as much. But no, for sure, 3-4 years ago, after 2-3 games, I'd be hurting for a while. Yeah. Especially my legs.
Yeah. No, definitely. It makes sense, dude. I know we played a tournament in, was it like 2016 or some shit? Like my oldest was just born, you know, and it's funny enough, dude. Like I went to Snap City on the deadlifts, just basically just like you, man. But like I tried to grind through it, and we went to a tournament for MLK, MLK weekend, but it wasn't the one in Irvine. It was one in like the Palm Springs area and all that. The Desert Classic or some shit.
Heard of that?
Yeah, and it was we're in 2023, so whatever 9 years ago. Is it 9 years ago? No, my kid's 7, so it was 7 years ago.
Close enough.
Yeah, close enough. Suddenly the podcast math is always off, dude. If you pay attention, it's like we never get it right.
I hate math.
But so I went out there, dude, played 4 games in a 24-hour block.
Jeez.
And I snapped back. Like I don't know how I was even playing, why I was even out there, dude. Like my wife will tell you, like she was so fucking pissed off at me. Like
I'd imagine.
One, the baby was just born, so she feels like I abandoned her. You know, so like shout out to her for like putting up with my shit. And then 2, like I could barely move, dude. I could barely fucking move. And it's crazy, man. Like I was so like dosed up on ibuprofen, bro. Like,
So they going back to that tournament. I mean, there's been a lot where I've caught minimum 3, but I've pushed it to 4. And like I said, that one time I caught 5 games in a weekend. But the last 2 games I was drugged up. I had to be.
I get it, man. I get it, definitely. But you know, catching 5 games, I would imagine that that you've sniffed some farts. Right.
So a decent amount, and it's my own, the umpires and the hitters.
Oh fuck! All right, so D Murph his Instagram name is D Murph. He wants to know how many farts do you sniff every Sunday? Some of these questions, man, are hilarious.
I mean, for the most part, I think they're pretty respectful, but there's been
a respectful fart.
Well, no, not where they won't rip ass. Like because they'll be like, oh dude, because they could easily just be like, fuck this catcher, he's on the other team, like let me just crop dust him real quick, you know. It's kind of like, for the most part, I don't really smell that much, but there's been times where either I've had some bad ones and the umpire's like, all right dude, can you kind of just chill? And I'll be like, all right, I'll try to hold it a little bit. And then there's been times where the umpire has told me before the game, like, dude, just to let you know, like, something's going on with my stomach, and I'm just gonna try and hopefully the wind doesn't blow towards you. And I'm like, dude, I appreciate that. You're a stand-up guy for telling me that.
I never would have thought, because obviously, like, you guys are so like close proximity, basically breathing down your neck.
Right.
Yeah, I never would have thought of that, dude.
And again, dude, if it's windy,
yeah,
it's just one of those things where I might catch it on the wind.
Maybe, yeah.
But yeah, no, I've had umpires. It's been a few occasions where, or I'll tell the umpire, I'm like, dude, look, like something's going on. So and they're like, no, dude, thanks for telling me.
He said rip ass. That's hilarious. The last one was from Strike Juan. He's one of the hosts from Top of the Lineup. I mentioned him earlier. He said that he'll answer all these questions for us. But you know, he's currently not here to be answering that stuff. So shout out to Juan from Top of the Lineup. But we also have some our Sound Off Sunday.
Oh yeah,
definitely got a couple of stuff for you to react to. One of the first ones is from the SoCal Royals. Have you played against them yet?
I want to say I've had, but in another league. I know I'm pretty sure I played them at least once. But I don't
maybe
think
a tournament.
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe a tournament.
Something like that.
Yeah, I know they won one of the Irvine tournaments kind of recently.
Oh, okay.
Within the last couple of years. But they just want to say to let a Royal sound off on the podcast. So I mean, if they want to nominate somebody, feel free. I'm already kind of in like talking about it with them. So.
Yeah.
So the next one is from Rojas 48. He says, Hammered Heads or Los Blue Jays?
I mean, not trying to be a dick, but I could care less.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, just, again, everything's at an arm's length. So you said, so it's Hammerheads or Blue Jays?
Los Blue Jays, yeah. Which you'll be playing against both teams at some point. Okay. Yeah.
I would say, honestly, Hammerheads because of the content. I think I see them more content-wise.
Kind of like a recency bias.
Yeah, kind of like a recency bias, yeah.
Same, and like full disclosure, I have not watched the Blue Jays play. I got like a glimpse, but I only watched maybe like a third of an inning. Yeah. If that.
Yeah. And no, like I said, shout out to everyone in the Sunday League in this community. Yeah. But again, you know how it is with me just being more at a distance, not actually being legit like deep into this community,
Yeah. No, definitely, and I mean, a lot of people are gonna start to get to know you, dude. I
appreciate it.
You'll see.
And then I've got my one of, if not the funniest story from going back to like the fart question. Don't let me leave without telling it, because it'll be the first time I actually tell outside, like people outside of my family and friends.
Go ahead, dude. Go
right now.
Go.
All right, cool. So you remember back when I said like, with my travel ball year, it was like we got smacked around for a long time. And then we made this transition, and then all of a sudden we were just one of the top teams in the state. So I think it was the first. So ever since I was 11, they always had me play up.
Yeah.
Because they were like, hey, you can hang with the older kids. I know you're young. You're not going to get as much playing time, but we think you can hang with them. So ever since I was 11, it was just one of those things where I was like always playing a year or two above my age.
Yeah.
I was rarely 12 playing 12. I was either playing 13 or 14. And so one night we have I think it was a game, like a 7:00 game over. You know where I want to say the Riverside Field of Dreams?
Yep.
Yeah. So like, between the Chino Hills and West Covina one, people would say like it was like the tackier one kind of thing that didn't look as nice. Anyway, I loved playing there regardless. But one night we were scheduled for a 7:00 game, and I had eaten Del Taco maybe an hour. You know how you show up an hour before
the cup of fries?
Yeah, no, thank you. It was worse. It was I still went and ate the fries, but anyway. So we're supposed to be there like around 6, right, at the field. Cool. Game time's at 7. We're gonna be there at 6. Well, around 5:00, I just eat Del Taco for dinner.
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool. It's one of my favorite. Like, this is gonna help me out for the game or whatever. But I think it was the first game that I had ever played up with the older boys. And so I eat the Del Taco, and like 10 minutes later, dude, it's like, that gurgle feeling in your stomach where
the BGs,
a storm's brewing in your stomach. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to say anything, because like at the time it's like, this is me trying to show that I can play with the big boys. Yeah. Right. And so we get to the field. Nothing's changed. Still feels like there's gurgles going on in my stomach. And I'm warming up, and I'm scheduled to catch. And it just keeps ramping up. It's getting worse at this point, bro. Like where at the start of the game, I'm like, yo, I don't think I'm gonna catch this game. And so I think it was the very first inning. We had maybe 1 or 2 outs into the first inning of the game. We were the home team, and I think we had gotten an out or two. And I swear, like, I turned to the umpire and I said, yo, my stomach's messed up. Like, I think I need to go to the bathroom. And the umpire was super cool about it, super professional. He's like, okay, kid. He's like, do what you got to do. And dude, I was in the bathroom for like half an hour.
Oh shit! And they just stalled the game.
No. I think somebody else went in to catch.
Okay.
Dude, it was like, one of those where like if you fart, it's not just going to be a fart.
Of course, yeah.
Something, yeah. So it was literally like, it was almost to the point where I was starting to waddle getting to the bathroom.
Oh shit!
And I'm in there for like a solid 20 to half an hour, and I can't catch, dude, because stuff's just leaking out of me at this point. Like, it's just, I can't, dude. Every time I squat, like from the pressure,
right,
it was just like, dude, I won't be able to hold it in.
Right.
And so literally and figuratively, I shit the bed.
Yeah.
That day. Like,
Sucks, man.
And it was kind of like one of those things where it's like, dude, this is your first game playing up with the older boys.
Yeah.
And you literally shit the bed.
Now you're just caca boy.
Oh, dude, yeah, dude. I was in the dugout and I was like, one of my teammates were like, bro, what's up with you? Because he smelled it, bro. He was like, yo, dude, you got something going on. And I was like, yeah. He's like, dude, I'm super embarrassed. And I sat on the bench the rest of the game.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And then to this day, I won't eat anything before I catch. Like, if anything, I'll have like a Slim Jim,
right,
or like a little bit of peanut butter. But I won't eat anything ever since that day or that night when I was 11. Yeah. Up until now, I won't eat anything heavy because I'm so traumatized from that
definitely.
night.
And honestly, it probably has developed into like a superstition of yours.
Yeah, no,
maybe,
for sure. Yeah, well, one being traumatized, and that just turned into a superstition. So yeah,
no, definitely, man. Yeah. And so like having the BGs and farting it up, like that shit'll make you hot and funky, right?
Oh, dude, yeah, it was bad. And then, like I said, one of the most embarrassing moments I've had on the field, and like I said, to this day, you won't get me to eat more than something like very small before I catch. So like I said, today before I catch for the tropics, I had like half of a beef jerky stick just because I needed to eat something.
Yeah.
And
then you had a 12 o'clock game, so like it's kind of like even more so. Like,
yeah, like if I don't eat something and I have a 12 o'clock game, I'm gonna feel worse the back end of that 12 o'clock game.
Right.
When 2 o'clock rolls around.
So you wouldn't even eat like a banana or something like?
No,
mid-game?
I would.
Like mid game?
Yeah. No, not mid game.
Okay.
I literally was like, if I'm not gonna eat something small, don't bring me anything during the game.
Right.
Like wait till after, because like again, it was so seared in my 11-year-old mind of like, dude, it was a while before I had Del Taco.
Right. No, it makes sense, man.
Like,
that shit's traumatizing, bro. Like if you don't have a fucked up shit story, man, like you ain't living life.
Right. You ain't doing it right, at least.
No, I'm pretty sure I've told mine on this show, man. Like basically, like in JUCO, I was playing San Bernardino Valley, and like we were taking BP and shit, and like just out of nowhere, like taking BP, like you also kind of work on your base running, reading the ball off the bat, and all that shit. And so like there was one shuffled off, and then like I took off to like start running, just. I felt something, like it felt like a little fart, I was like, oh, whatever, and then next thing you know, like it starts getting itchy and shit. I'm just like, yo, I gotta go to the locker room over there, because like at the school they had
so you were running so fast you left actual skid marks. Is that
oh shit, yeah, pretty much.
You were just tearing up the dirt.
Oh, dude, it was bad. And so like I ended up having like itchy butt and shit, and like I cleaned myself, threw those boxers away, dude, and like by the time I was like coming back out, like the practice was basically over, so like I didn't have to worry about it too much. But like I'm walking around in like my baseball pants and like my shorts. Like I threw my shorts on and shit. I ran into that fucking thing with all my shit, dude, because I didn't know what was gonna happen.
Right.
So I had to get out of there, bro.
It happens.
So yeah, that shit's hot and funky, man. Speaking of hot funk, the Hot Funk baseball team. Okay. They play out like in the OC area.
Oh, okay.
They say, what Sunday league are y'all most excited for? Some might say is the MSBL is most stacked. That's the one in Irvine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So do you know too much about?
I don't know much about like outside of this initial area when it comes to leagues, but playing separately like in tournaments or just randomly one day, like, you know, when a league isn't in session, like who wants to scrimmage or whatever.
Yeah.
I've faced some really great teams out of the San Diego area.
Yeah.
And that's where, like I said, you want to talk about saturation. It feels like
San Diego is
everyone's good out in San Diego.
Yeah.
It's just how it is, you know, and but like I said, outside of that, I know there's good teams in every league and every level of the game. But for sure, some of the best competition I faced as a Sunday League player were guys out of, OC, San Diego, a couple in Riverside, but nothing, like you said, the saturation of those other 2 counties that I mentioned.
Yeah.
And then always, who always brings the heat, obviously, literally and figuratively, is Arizona teams. I've had some of my best ball playing against Arizona teams.
Yeah, it seems like obviously the Phoenix area is full of like spring training and all that shit. The World Baseball Classic coming up.
Right.
Like, is that something you're gonna go to by any chance?
I want to try to. I feel like that's something cool to be a part of because actually, now that you bring that up, I have another wholesome memory. Really quick. So a buddy of mine had passed away when I was just after when I graduated high school, but he was kind of like an older mentor, older brother. And my last good memory we had was we went to the World Baseball Classic when it was USA versus Puerto Rico. When it was at Dodger Stadium.
Okay.
And I had gotten the tickets because somebody else couldn't go, and then somebody hooked it up from work where I used to work at. I actually used to work for Crane Freight, the guy who owns the Houston Astros too. So we had gotten 2 or 3 tickets, and then somebody else had a ticket. So there was 4 guys who were going. And at the time, he was one of my closest buddies. So I was like, yo, like, Frank, you just want to come out and watch the championship? And he was like, bro, I tried to get tickets. Like, you just made like my whole week.
That's
like,
dope.
He was like, I tried to and I wasn't able to. He's like, I'm so stoked. And I went with him. We rode together, and we just watched USA smack around Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
I knew it was a weird game because that was the first time I'd seen Yadier Molina make multiple errors.
Oh, shit.
And you just know how good he is defensively, right? One of the best all-time defensive catchers.
Yeah.
And he made like 2 or 3 errors.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, that kind of morale from that guy, the way he's playing. And USA had hot bats at the time.
Yeah.
But, and then, like I said, you know, tragically 6 months later, he had passed away. But I still have some good memories, some good videos and photos and mementos from that day. But, I want to try and go to another one.
Yeah. No, definitely. Who do you have this in this one coming up?
I'm like I said, USA born and bred. Yeah, born
there you
and bred.
go.
So.
Yeah, your Under Armour hat has like the USA flag like in it. So.
I mean, we talked about it. Why do you think I'm over at Bass Pro Shop all the time?
Exactly.
So it's just the culture.
Definitely. I think the Dominican Republic has a stacked squad also.
Oh yeah, don't get me
wrong.
They're
fucking stacked.
They're always loaded. I'll always give out to like Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic some of the best players in the world.
Yeah, definitely.
But
Puerto Rico's one that like everybody's kind of sleeping on too. Japan, they're always fucking good. You know, so I mean, like, I don't know, man. It's gonna be real interesting. I'm not sure if we're going out there yet. It's one of those things like we're still throwing it around. Financially, it's a little much, so we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see on our part. But Hot Funk also wanted to. We had talked about like a jersey bracket, like a Sunday League jersey bracket.
Oh, okay.
They want to know when we're gonna do it. But is there any like jerseys, Sunday League jerseys that like kind of jump out at you that you think are pretty dope?
Excuse me. I think. Well, I'd seen the Reds earlier. I kind of like their jerseys, but like I said, it's honestly been a year since I've been, I've been in a season or I've played.
Yeah.
I know you guys will flash some jerseys up, and I won't remember like the ones that I've liked.
Right.
Do you have any off the top of your head that you think I would like?
Oh man.
Or find cool or interesting?
Honestly, probably the Hot Funk is kind of interesting. They got some interesting jerseys. I don't know if you're into like anime or anything like that.
I mean, I've watched a show, but it's not like the thing that I'm into.
The Z Fighters have an interesting like uniform as a whole. Like they have like the all blue with orange. Let me think. They have, like you mentioned earlier. Like I just saw the Reds ones in pictures earlier. Like they're new and interesting. They got the whole like pinstripe thing. There's a lot of teams out there, man. They get really fucking creative.
And that's another thing too. You know how we were talking about how like, on my random feed I'm getting more Sunday League like content,
Yeah.
like from all these other leagues in the area. That's another thing too, is that I think teams are becoming more creative with their jerseys because now they see the culture is actually building up.
Yeah.
So they want to flash like their style, their fashion, the way they play the game. Because again, you're right. We've built, or you know, this community has built momentum over the last few years.
Yeah.
And I think that ties into like, all right, well, we're starting to get more eyes on us. Let's flash some style.
Yeah, let's see who's swaggier. The Hammerheads is pretty dope. Like I know, I
like their colors.
They have a good color combo. They got like their gamer jersey, and then they got like a fan jersey.
Okay. That's cool.
I have the fan one.
Uh-huh.
It's got my name on it. It's got my jersey number and stuff. But like that's not something that I would wear like as a ball player.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Like if it's game time, you're not wearing that.
I'm gonna need my game jersey.
Yeah,
I like both.
I get you,
obviously. So they do the both jersey stuff. But there's a lot, dude. There's a lot of teams out there that like can nominate their stuff to our bracket that we haven't started yet. So we haven't really like announced that yet. I'm kind of waiting on a couple of things.
Yeah, I get you.
For for obvious reasons. Like right now, it's just at the moment today it's just me. But I know DH will be back soon. Hopefully. Fitz is taking care of some business himself.
Yeah.
But for our next sound off Sunday, Nick from the PCBL Crooks, which PCBL Pacific Coast Baseball League, which is arguably matches the FBL. Like their top teams can match. I think the best way I could put it is like if there was a 24 team tournament, these would probably be the two teams. If I had to pick two leagues, I would pick the two top divisions.
I was going to say, because that's one that I've seen thrown around, like when you guys post, or the random feed, like I was saying earlier, like that's a league that I'll see more often than not.
Yeah.
So
no, definitely, and I know there's like the platoon. They're basically calling out everybody, like who wants to play us, we'll play anybody. Right. And they're one of the teams that, as a matter of fact, they're going to play against the Zone 22.
Okay.
The farm teams that they're doing. So they're going to play each other. I want to say February 4th. I don't know if that's a Saturday or a Sunday.
Okay.
It might be like, it might interfere with Super Bowl, if I'm being honest. Yeah. But I personally don't.
I don't watch football.
You're not a football guy?
No.
You would strike me as a football guy.
Like, honestly, like I told you, like the way that I am, like the last two seasons, how I haven't really cared about the major league season.
Right.
That's kind of how I am with any sport as I've gotten older.
But it's probably even worse, right? Like,
yeah, no, it's worse. It's like as soon as football comes up or like another sport, I just kind of like I shut off, I click off, not paying attention.
Right.
Because again, my interests are starting to shift now that I'm getting older. And it's kind of like, I went through that phase of like a little bit of football, a little bit of soccer, a little bit of basketball.
Right.
But yeah, it's just, how things shift as we get older, different priorities, different interests. Just, it's one of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Nick from the PCBL Crooks, he says we're going in as no less than a 2 seed to playoffs. Bank on it. What do you think?
All right, I'll hold you to it. Like if you're trying to, if you're gonna make a statement like that, cool, go for it, dude. Like, and if you fall short, so what? But at least you made the statement.
No, definitely, and that shit happens, man. I mean, we're not gonna get every single dub that's available out there. Next one, Corey Cantrell from the Santa Clarita Quakes. He says that's
a beautiful area, by the way.
Santa Clarita.
Yeah,
I know we've only driven through it.
Yeah,
but I mean, is it?
Well, like,
what do they got to offer? I know the 49ers are out there, right?
Well, I mean, like, it's kind of like that whole stretch between. Like when you pass Malibu, when you get into Santa Barbara, and then, like you said, Pismo, Monterey, Morro Bay, the place I told you and the family to check out.
Yeah.
When you get up into that coast of Central and Northern California, not like Newport and Huntington, because everybody fucking goes there, dude. You know how it is, right?
Yeah, I'm basic too. Yeah, I go there.
Dude, I go to Newport for a coffee shop, but, it's like when you're there for the beach, you know how packed it gets, right? Because it's LA County, but it's congested.
Yeah.
But when you go up the coast, like I was in Bodega Bay not too long ago, some of the prettiest scenery I've ever seen. And, it's NorCal. It's only 4 or 5 hours up, if not a little bit longer. But yeah, that stretch of like wine country and beach, it's dude, like, I'm not trying to take that for granted. It's so pretty.
Yeah.
And I just love being up there, driving around and hanging out.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's what's up, man. We definitely gotta, like the family and I, we check
and then
all this stuff out.
Definitely
man.
let me know if you go to Roscoe's Deli because I might want to join low key.
Oh, definitely.
It's been a while.
I know that's over there in Chino Hills.
yeah. So.
It's not even much of a drive, honestly.
No, it's nothing.
So Corey Cantrell, he wants to say the PCBL Majors division is about to go off this spring with 14 teams. It's a lot of teams. Yeah. That's a lot of motherfuckers, man.
So who would you say, like, is it still like top 6 or top 8 make playoffs or what when you have that many teams?
I would go top 8.
That's what I would
If
do.
it was up to me, yeah, I'm going top 8.
Okay.
Because at least you get like I guess you get like what I call an even bracket. Like there's no first round buys. Like I don't like first round buys, man. Like I like the idea of a potential upset.
Right. I want to see a 5th seed take out a 1 or a 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, and that's what's cool about baseball, man. Especially when teams are pretty evenly matched, because all these teams could easily be like one game apart. In the standings. Next one is from the Sun Devils. They just sent emojis. This one, it's like the hand. It's horns, right?
I think so. Yeah.
These are horns.
Yeah.
And the devil face, horns up, is what they're saying.
Yeah.
So they just want to tell you horns up. Cause,
no.
Because you lost to them today.
Hey, that's just how the game works. That's just how it is. But no, like I said, they're one of those teams where it's like, you know, I bring out a lot. I bring out a lot of intensity when I'm catching, especially now that I'm, you know, like more fit and I'm able to do a little bit more athletically back there. But it's like there's certain teams when I see on the schedule, it's like, okay, I better really just keep at like my best level, my highest level,
you
right?
Step your game up.
And I'm not saying that if I play a weaker team, I dial it down, but it's kind of like there's teams that'll always keep you on your toes at your highest level, and I just like playing against them, you know. So and again, going back to Cam Rodriguez, usually the third baseman, he pitched today, but we were high school teammates. I think he's like 2 grades older or a grade older than me. But it was really nice seeing him because we hadn't talked in so long. But no, it's just you guys. You know, they had the sticks come out for sure. Yeah, they played well today.
Definitely, and they've always been a team to not sleep on.
Right.
I mean, they actually beat the Tropics in like the championship series. It was to go to the championship. I don't know if you remember, but it was like a blown call.
Oh yeah, dude, I was catching that game.
Oh, were you?
Yeah, I was catching that game.
Oh, so you were there.
No, actually, I was because
so like whoever grounded out, they grounded out to the Sun Devils pitcher.
Right.
Sun Devils pitcher, it kind of like hit off his like shin or something. Ball rolled away a little bit. He comes over and picks it up, throws it to first. First baseman catches it. It's clearly out.
Right.
Clearly out. We had like a whole episode on it, dude.
I think I heard that episode.
Yeah, it's clearly out, and then like the umpire's just like safe.
Yeah.
Well, it was like,
and what's crazy too is that I had a couple of my younger kids come out and watch me catch,
and they got to see all that craziness.
And dude, they were hyped. The moms, of course, were like, "Oh my god, like, you know,
oh my god, get my kid
things are getting crazy, right?"
Yeah.
But the kids were like, "Yo, like, coach,
like, fuck yeah,
yeah, dude, they were into it, and I just love that about, especially like one was 10 and I think the other one was 12.
What are you teaching these kids?
And they were like, dude, I saw their faces and they were like, oh, like they were amped up. But I think the only thing I have really to say about that, because again, that was more of the start of like me taking things from a distance and looking at things from a distance. I think my only thing on that is kind of like, you know, obviously it was a blown call. Obviously it, you know, the way that it ended, it shouldn't have ended that way.
Right.
For me, coming at it from like an outsider's perspective, I think some of the things that I was hearing from the Sun Devils about, because again, like this is kind of what I've heard. I heard some stuff after the game or whatever about certain threats or how it was getting a little too heated.
Right.
Where it's like, I get it. We're all passionate about the game. I understand that, right? Because I've gone off on an umpire before. It's not often, but I've had my 2 or 3 occasions. I think when it crosses that line of being passionate and, okay, you're too into this because you've attached this to your whole identity.
Right.
Or this is everything that you think about yourself. And that's why I understand why people get defensive. And again, we're passionate.
Yeah.
My thing is like, try to really never cross that line of like, look, yeah, you've been wronged. You've been robbed. You're not going to get, that's just how life is. You're not always going to get you're going to get the short end of the stick. Sorry. Yeah. That's just how it works. Yeah. Right? It's unfortunate, but that's just how it works. Yeah. But that's, again, what I teach my older catchers is, look, don't take it to that extent.
Right.
Don't take it to where like you're getting too, you're building too much animosity and you're taking it out too poorly or immaturely.
Yeah.
There's a way to address your frustrations in a mature manner versus, okay, now we're starting to cross the line of like, okay, it's getting childish.
Right.
And that's, again, as an outsider, that's kind of that was my take on it. But again, I understand we're all passionate, heat of the moment, that happens.
Yeah.
But that line is where I kind of,
Yeah.
I draw it.
Yeah. So some of those popcorn posts that we put on the on our stories, like, yeah, sure, it can be a little childish, but like I think that's what it boils down to. Like the sound off Sundays is kind of like talk your shit. You know?
No, yeah, I get it.
And so speaking of talking shit, Mikey 13, he wants to say Los Blue Jays player Rojas is sorry. I don't know why he keeps running his mouth. So I guess one of the players on the Blue Jays was talking shit.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Yeah, it's just popcorn time. You know, it's my favorite time. It's my favorite time of the week, man. Yeah, which is pretty cool because it's like for us, it's like a build up to like the next time these two teams play. You know, and it gives us our like oh, like maybe we should go check this game out. Right,
a little bit of interest builds.
Exactly.
Yeah, I get you.
Exactly, and I think that's the point, right?
Right.
That interest is being built in all of this, really.
And you got to have both, dude. You got to have the ones who are chirping nonstop, whether or not they're doing well or not. That's just how they are.
Yeah.
And then you got to have the guys that are just like, you know what, I'll just show you. And I'm on that kind of side of the fence where it's like, I'm not that person to talk. And then, okay, if I get away with it, I talk shit and then I do really well. I'm just the dude that's going to show you, and you're going to know just how I play the game. I won't say a word unless you actually start something with my teammates.
Right.
But I'm going to show you how legit I am just by that, you know?
No, yeah, definitely. I could say I'm kind of like on the field, I'm the same way, and I'm not much of a chirper anyways. I don't even like confrontation, dude.
Right.
It's like I'd rather just slide into you at second base and just fucking take your ass out and break up the double play. Yeah. And then I'm just going to get up and jog to my dugout because I'm out. You know, I don't give a shit.
Right.
You know, but I got you.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the mentality. Like it's baseball. Like that's the way it's played.
But I love the polarity of it. Like how, you know, if you're in a league where like nobody's chirping, doesn't it get boring?
Yeah, I can see that.
It's kind of like where like, okay, if you have 8 to 10 teams and there really isn't at least one team that's chirping nonstop. Like that's what I love about it. It's like, while I carry myself a different way, I love the polarity because that's what makes it fun. Yeah. So
and it's also too like baseball. Like it's always preached that like baseball's such a mental game, you know, and this and that, and like you're trying to get under this chirping. You want to get under the skin of your opponent, right?
Right.
And I've gotten you know, like there's somebody out there right now. I'm not gonna say who. Somebody out there right now that like this motherfucker gets under my fucking skin, dude, and I can't.
They'll just cut deep.
And it's just like for the dumbest shit, and it's like I know we're both looking at each other through content, you know. It's there's I think there's a bit of a stare. I mean, I might be making it up in my own head.
So now, like, is it
you know what I'm saying?
Is it personal or is it just some?
It's not personal.
Banter? Okay, it's just stupid.
It's definitely not personal, but it's more like come on, dude, like you suck, bro. Stop acting like you're good because you're not.
Oh,
you know,
yeah, just that kind of mind game.
Yeah, dude, and like most people listening, like they know what I'm talking about, you know, and so
I get you.
Yeah, and again, it's like, but I'm more of like I'm not trying to say like I'm gonna take the high road because like I'll be the first dude to fucking take a dude out to break up a double play.
Yeah,
but with like when it's say if it's like a certain people, like I'm gonna take them out a little harder, you know.
Yeah,
it's like I'm gonna slide harder, like the way Michael Scott says, like, I'm gonna date her even harder.
Right? Yeah, I got you.
Funny shit. The last one from a former guest of the show. You could say he's your Python in a way. From the Razor. You don't know the Razor. He's one of our first guests, dude. Early on, yeah. Okay. Like we were still in like the teens of our episodes.
I'll have to go back and listen to some of your guys' very first episodes because I only know from about a year to now.
Yeah, so you've missed a lot.
Okay,
you've missed a lot for sure.
Have to go back.
So the Razor, you'll actually be playing against him because he said that I've officially signed a contract with the IE Pride hashtag I'm back. So Razor, solid ball player. He played in Belgium for a little while professionally and all that.
Nice.
A great dude. He's a gem. You guys would have great conversation, dude. It's crazy. Like you guys share similar mentalities and kind of like where you've come from. Like it's pretty cool, dude. It's pretty cool. Like that you guys could potentially connect in the future. Like I think he'd be a good guest for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, welcome aboard, right?
Welcome
like
back.
I said, this is honestly, like I said, one of the most competitive leagues, in SoCal, and again, it takes you to a whole different level. It makes you play better. But that's something that I think I had the opportunity to do, but I was in school. I was doing I graduated from the EMT program, I think when I was like 2021 over at Chafee. But a buddy of mine was saying that in Austria, like, dude, they don't have any catchers. And I was like, I mean, I get it.
Of course,
like, it makes sense to me.
Yeah.
But he was telling me that it's either now or you just don't go.
Yeah.
And me being 20 years old and had other priorities and other things going on, I couldn't just get up and leave.
Yeah.
It wasn't the right time for it. And I appreciated it because he told me, he was like, you're the first guy that I came to because his name's Jay. I actually learned a lot from him. He played at a higher level than I did. Great catcher. I picked his mind a lot when we were coaching together. But he goes, dude, I don't know if he played out there or he got other offers to play like in Europe. But he's like, dude, if you want to come catch in Austria. And I was like, that would be just so sick to like just put on a baseball resume. Yeah. It's like, yo, I was a catcher in Austria for like a year.
Yeah, exactly.
But like I said.
Like Ramon, he was a shortstop in Belgium.
That's pretty dope.
For a couple seasons. Yeah. So it's pretty cool, man, which is one of the reasons why like I was like, we got to have this guy on the show and stuff. Give it a chance though, because we were all drinking. We're all pretty fucked up on that one.
Dude, you're good.
Yeah,
I'll enjoy it either way.
For sure, man. There was one more SOS Sound Off Sunday from JC from the Mets, from the Upland Mets. He just wants to remind everybody that the Mets are winning this season again.
Honestly, if you're the champ, like, just why not? It is what it is. Like I said,
the repeat champs, so they're going for the three-peat. Why not?
I mean, the Mets are good, dude. Like I said, and they're back-to-back champs. So
yeah, I think they're grossly underestimated right now. I mean, most of them. You've played against. They got a lot of talent, man. They got a lot of talent. It's a very scrappy team.
I played with Ethan. Shout out to Ethan. He's always been a cool dude to me. Their catcher, Guillen, was actually, when I was a junior, he was a freshman, I believe. Yeah. And he was kind of like, I mean, again, at the time.
And the kid's a stud, by the way.
No, he's good. Yeah. I think he went to UCR or UCI, something like that.
UCR.
UCR. And no, he's legit. But it was kind of like one of those things where it was like, again, I wasn't playing at my highest level, but how we became friends was kind of like he just had the same temperament as I did. We were more on the quiet side, but when we played, it was like, okay, well, if you wanted to, you could talk shit all you want. Right. It was kind of one of those things, again, going back to the silent, we'll just show you whatever. Yeah. He's always been him and his, I don't know much about his brother, but I know his brother's good too. I think he goes to UCR as well. Yeah. Right? But yeah, Guillen, he's always been a good catcher too. Yeah, and a good guy. So yeah, shout out to him.
He's fucking solid, bro.
Yeah, he's good.
DH actually had a question for you. He wants to know, what is the proper technique for blocking bad vibes? Perfectly worded question, by the way.
Like if somebody was like. If this was like a job interview and somebody was like, what's one of the highlights of your personality? It's like, I can show you how to block bad vibes. I'd be like, okay, well, you're pretty much hired on the spot. Right. Because that's just super chill. And it's just like, all right, cool. Well, then show me. Right. Yeah.
Very good question, by the way.
No, it is, because again, it goes back to like how you're dealing with stress. Yeah. So is it negative or is it positive, right? So for example, like, again, real quick, the way that I used to deal with stress was drinking, smoking weed, eating, stress eating. Yeah. Oh, dude, I'll be watching TV and I'll grab a bag of Doritos, like the family size, and I'll just kill it myself. Yeah. And the more stressed I am, the more that I'll just keep running through my pantry and running through the fridge. But for sure, it depends on just what you do to handle stress. But, I've been blessed the last year or so to really enjoy like everyone who's in my life right now, and nobody really bring or be a part of some serious drama, like how it was in a time of my life in my late teens, early 20s. Yeah. And it's kind of just like, all right, well, cool. If you want to block a bad vibe by going to the gym, it's one of the best ways to do it.
Yeah.
If you want to, you know, if you want to take on a new hobby, or if you just want to hang out and talk with a friend, you know, not do something stupid, like I said, drinking, because again, depends on who you're around. But if someone who could just hang out and chill with you, have a good time, take a drive somewhere. Like, I think that's how my family and I got into driving really far just for the day.
Right.
Was because we would be so stressed out in our house situation that we'd just be like, hey, you guys want to go to Arizona and just eat at a restaurant and then come back later tonight? It was, we're down. Sounds fun.
And then you got a lot of bodies that you can just the driving responsibilities just can rotate.
Hang out and vibe with, chill to some music, you know, enjoy the ride. But and that's something that not so much again with my older catchers, because I can't talk about some of the things that I do with the adults and parents around, because they're just not ready for it. That's not their mental capacity, right? But the things that I'll talk to about parents is that it's like, okay, obviously we all go through those rough patches, but by you grabbing the bottle, by you smoking weed, by you doing some unproductive or damaging habit, it's only going to make the process worse. Like, you're just going to keep being in this loop of suffering. So a good example, like I said, going back to me, is when I would hit that rough patch, drink, or I would eat way more than I needed to. Yeah. And again, it was that run to comfort instead of me just facing the situation. And when I started to build more productive habits, it was just kind of like that urge was still there, but it felt better knowing that I didn't turn to it, especially the last year or two. Yeah. So again, it's honestly like, you can have, like I told you, you can have a whole conversation about just that. Yeah. But are you handling stress in a productive or unproductive way, pretty much, to keep it simple? Yeah. Yeah.
To dumb it down. Perfect. Perfectly said.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Definitely. So as you sign my ball, because every guest that we have on the show, I always ask for your guys' autograph and all that. Yeah. And so, you know, there's obviously a lot of names on here. So as you sign that, I'm going to ask you one of two questions. I have two last questions for you, right, as you sign the ball. So, you know, before we end it, you know, what message do you want to leave for everybody listening?
I think one of the biggest life lessons that I've learned is stop boxing yourself into certain definitions. Like, again, going back to the private coaching, going back to me trying to do a video podcast, or, you know, all these video discussion interviews, me running for a mile straight, and me defining myself as an asthmatic, I'd be like, dude, you can never run a mile straight and handle that. I think we get so caught up in boxing ourselves because we don't think about, like, I could never be that. So for example, like, again, going back to the boxing with my friend, for the longest time I was like, I'm not going to learn how to throw punches. I'm not going to learn how to the footwork technique or anything like that. Or, you know, I'm not going to learn this certain skill set. And again, it's kind of like going back to another, like, it's weird, but I'm kind of learning basic, like, Mandarin from another family. I think I mentioned it to you a while ago. But it's that initial urge to fight off, like, that's not me. I don't want to learn that, or I don't want to do that. It's like, well, if you learn, like, there's no detriment in kind of learning a new skill. Right. And not boxing yourself into such a rigid, like, definition of yourself, you know? It's kind of like, you know, leave that. Like, redefine yourself. Like, start with a blank slate, kind of like, again, from personal experience, how I did it. Yeah. All the labels that I ever had in my head or what people would give me, I wiped them all out, and I just started new a year and a half ago. Yeah. Maybe 2 years ago. And that's the thing that I see that hinders people, is because, you know, I have a couple parents telling me, like, hey, I want to do this, but I'm not sure. You know, and I get it, dude. The family life, it takes a toll. Like, that's a main priority. I get it. Family life, parenting, I understand. But they'll name off way more excuses to not do it than instead of just saying, you know what, like, I'm probably just going to go for it. Yeah. And just let it fall where it does, you know? And that's the thing, is like, we just come up with so many excuses to not do stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, definitely guilty of that.
Same.
Yeah, everybody. All right, man. So before we let you go,
Mhm.
I want to thank you for your time.
No, dude, thank you. This has been awesome.
Thank you for your time. You know, I mean, shit, we've been here almost 3 hours, beyond 3 hours, as a matter of fact.
And
I bet you feel like it's flown.
Oh yeah, it has. And I feel like when I listen back to it, I feel like, man, I could have maybe touched on a couple other points, but
Right.
like I said, the conversation between us has flowed pretty well. And like you said earlier, it's been a good conversation. And like I said, more detailed stuff in Honest Archetype about the background and everything, about those real rough patches in my life, and you know, just being more honest about it. But no, dude, this is honestly, like you said, I wish I'd known you longer, but
Yeah,
I'm glad that we're here now.
Definitely. And so before we hit the cue music, you're around home plate a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is a question that we tend to ask here every now and again.
Okay.
Haven't asked it for with my fuck ups. I haven't asked, right, with some of our recent guests. But as far as home is concerned, is it a plate or a base?
That's like one of those late night, like smoking weed kind of sessions that somebody just brings up out of nowhere. Like, you know, okay, well, is home plate a plate or a base? The way that I would answer it, like in my head, just like, I guess the competitor side would just be like, either way, you're not going to cross it. So it's kind of like, you know, like either way, I'm going to not, you know, it, like if there's a play,
it's nothing to you.
If there's a play at the plate, it's kind of like one of those things where I don't care what you call it, but I'm going to drop down and on a knee and stop you from scoring. It's kind of just one of those.
I'm going to stop you for a second. You 2 or 3 times already, you've referenced it as home plate. I'm going to stop you at the plate. You're not crossing the plate.
Yeah.
So I would argue
that's
that
fair.
that you see it maybe as it's home plate and it's not home base.
I mean, I've loved both plates, like the full plate of food and just the home plate itself. So it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, you know what, like that's, if I call it that in conversation, then that's what I call it. But again, that's one of those like late night, like where you're either laying in bed or there's a smoke session going on.
It's always a real in-depth argument, dude. Like there's never gonna be a right answer. Gun to your head though, home plate or home base?
Just from me saying it subconsciously, yeah, I'd say it's a plate. Yeah.
Junior Guillen, everybody.
Thank you, guys. This is great, dude.
Let's go.
Appreciate the time.
Appreciate your time, man. And we'll catch all you fucking bush leaguers on the next one.
Yeah, like I said, shout out to each and every one of you. Appreciate it.
All right, let's get the fuck out of here.
Guys, dude, I'm hungry.
Peace.